accountant Cindy Yoakum is suing her ex-boyfriend, car salesman Andrew Montgomery, for bail money and for the cost of a trip to California.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 476 on the calendar in the matter of Yoakum versus Montgomery. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Ms. Yoakum, you and the defendant had a relationship which is no longer, and it is your claim that Mr. Montgomery owes you for half a trip that you took together to California. And in addition, there is still a remaining balance that he owes you on some bail money that you wired for him, which allowed his get-out-of-jail almost free card. Mr. Montgomery says that the trip to California that you took was a gift, and that while he does acknowledge that you posted bail for him at one point, he says he's paid you the entire $500 back. Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, tell me about this trip to California. When did you take it, and what were the circumstances?
Your Honor, Mr. Montgomery in August had offered to take me on vacation for my birthday, which is September 9th. Offered to pay for it with the check for vacation that he had been anticipated on receiving.
I don't know. Ms. Yoakum, listen to me. There are certain things that ring true.
Right.
Boyfriends say, I want to take you on a vacation. Let's go on a vacation.
Right.
Great. Where do you want to go? I want to go to
California.
California. Boyfriend doesn't say, I'm going to pay for it with a check that I'm going to get from my job when I left, and my... That you don't discuss.
At that point in time, I was not able to afford to go. And
so let's go back a little bit. It's August, and
Yep.
you discuss going on a vacation.
Yes.
Tell me where you were when you first started to discuss going on the vacation.
We were at my home discussing going on vacation for my birthday. He had told me that he was going to pay for the entire trip from a vacation check from his former employer.
Tell me how he said that to you.
I said, you know, I can't afford to go on this trip right now.
So he didn't say to you, I want to take you on a trip for your birthday.
Yes, he did.
Now, shh, Miss Yoakum, listen to me carefully. If he said, I want to take you on a trip for your birthday, then you wouldn't have had any discussion with him about, I can't pay for it now. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Don't fudge the truth. The truth may be all that you need. But when I ask you what was said, you're going to tell me exactly what was said. Because if he said to you, I'm taking you away for your birthday, your response would not have been, I can't afford to go now. Because that wouldn't have been a logical response. Logical response would have been, oh, great. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Right.
Okay, now let's go. Let me hear your version.
What happened is she wanted to go away for a weekend. It was Labor Day weekend, and I had a long weekend off at work. Now, since I had a long weekend off at work, she said, let's go get away, and we were trying to decide where to go. I said, well, I don't have any money on me. I didn't have much money. I just started work at a job closer to her home. And I did get a check right before I went. I said, well, I have a check before I go. All I'll have is spending money. She said, don't worry about it. I'll purchase the tickets. I'll get the hotel wherever we're going to stay and take what money you have and use that for spending money, which I did.
And you went away Labor Day weekend?
Yes.
Yes, I have the receipts for the amounts charged on my credit card.
Let me see. What's Tiffany & Company?
Jewelry store.
I know what it is. What'd you buy there?
I bought a necklace.
For who?
Me.
Well, why is that here?
I just highlighted everything because he had told me he was taking me and he would pay for everything.
No, dear. You don't get it. The only thing I don't see here really is restaurants. Only one restaurant.
We took a large sum of money. I withdrew over $500. He had the $400 from his check, and then an additional $200 that I withdrew from my ATM.
Okay, just a minute. So he had $400 that he took with him?
Yes.
That he spent?
And I also had money that I took. I didn't feel that he should pay for, you know, if I wanted any, like, souvenirs.
Necklaces. Shh. Okay. Mr. Montgomery, when you came back from this vacation, were you working, sir?
Yes.
What kind of job were you working at?
I was at a car dealership.
So why didn't you start paying her for at least part of this trip, your airline tickets and
I
the
sure
rental
did.
car?
Every paycheck I got, I gave her $300 here, $400 there. I gave her plenty of money.
Were you living together?
Yes, we were.
How long did you live together?
5 months.
Is that right?
5 months.
August 5th. I do have a record of every time.
Just tell me how long you lived together.
August 5th.
To when?
Or, I'm sorry, about August 5th to December 5th.
Okay. And he would give you money every month? Or every week from his paycheck?
He gave me some, a little bit here and there. I have wrote down every amount that he's ever given me.
Let me see it. Bert,
And I gave it to him when...
let me see it. But I missed something. I missed something.
Oh, yes.
What did I miss? What did he say? A couple of months, 3? Went like that? What did he do? No, I really want to know.
Okay.
It was 5, but I only have,
Says
I
five.
forgot. I only got 4
Four
fingers on his hand.
his right hand.
So,
And then he switched up, and it was,
I know I missed
it
something.
was a moment.
All right, let's get to the bail. Oh. Why were you arrested, sir?
from a previous relationship, a crazy ex-girlfriend, going through some problems. It had nothing pertaining to do with us.
So you were arrested on an assault charge or domestic violence?
It was a home invasion charge.
I have that right here if you'd like.
When we got
Look
back
at
from
it. Can I take a
California,
look at it?
she went and bought a wedding dress. She wanted to get married that soon. She went and purchased a wedding dress.
Mr. Montgomery, I'm talking about your arrest. You're talking to me about
Okay.
wedding veils. Did
Yes.
these two things have anything to do with each other?
No.
Good. And if you thought that you were going to get me off track just because of my age, you are not going to be successful, sir. What was the date that you posted this bond?
The date of the bond was, it was 2 days, 3 days before Thanksgiving, right before Thanksgiving, like a week
November,
before
sir,
maybe.
and you separated...
It was in November, yes.
November. You separated shortly thereafter in December.
Yes, I was at work, and she came to my work at 8 o'clock at night in the freezing cold.
Whatever.
Below zero, with all my belongings.
With a
said,
wedding
"Here,
dress.
Go out."
Okay. How much did he pay you back?
He paid me $220.
Okay. So far, I am satisfied that he owes you $280 for the bond. I'm not so sure about the trip.
He actually
I
asked
would like you to tell me why it was that after 5 months living together, you chose to evict him in the fashion that you did.
We had a lot of arguments, and frankly, he scared me. His ex-girlfriend had brought him in on domestic violence charges.
And you thought this was the safest way of dealing
I thought
with
it was the safest way. I had my friend with me. I wasn't
So
sure
you were
what he
afraid
would
of
do.
him?
I was afraid. He
were-
made 2 death threats to me.
You were afraid of him?
Yes.
Well, then my question is, and I know that this will sound a little naive to you, if you were afraid of him, why did you subsequently decide to have any contact with him?
He told me he would pay me back before Christmas so that I would have money.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? If you're really afraid of somebody and you fear for your life, why would you sue somebody for a couple of bucks if you got them out of your life and they were gone? So that you would have contact with them again, even if it's only briefly.
Your Honor, because I have PPO papers prepared and ready to go as soon as I get home.
What's PPO?
Personal protection order.
Why would you bother with that, though? My question is, why would you bother?
Because I've been in contact with his ex-girlfriend. I know what he's like. I know
Just a minute. What contact have you had with him since he left in December?
I haven't spoken to him.
So he hasn't... Shh. You haven't spoken to him? He hasn't called you?
He kept calling me until the 20th of December.
So several months went by and it's no contact. So why do you have an application ready for a protective order?
Because I'm being called as a witness in his felony trial.
Being called in his felony trial by his ex-girlfriend as a witness?
Yes.
So you got together with the ex-girlfriend?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I did try to contact her,
Which
and she
is what?
refused to sign.
Just a minute. What do you want?
She was harassing me.
I didn't. I'm not looking at you.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cindy Yoakum says ex-boyfriend Andrew Montgomery owes for bail money and for a trip to California. Andrew says it was her idea to take the trip.
It sounds to me as if you want nothing more to do with him and wanted to sever all ties and just get on with your life, you've certainly complicated it and that was your own doing.
Yes, I realize that.
Good. So it was very foolish. She owes you $280 for the bail. The trip, hope you enjoyed it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's got a history of using women. I thought she might help me out.
She went and bought a wedding dress. Right after we got back from California, wanted to get married. I wasn't ready to get married, and I didn't want to get married to her.
Let me see, he's asked me to marry him, he's asked his ex-girlfriend to marry him, and the one before that. He basically takes whoever's got the most money and uses them for whatever he can get.
She contacted me after she booted me out, after she kicked me out, left me in the cold. She called me, had me come up and visit her 3 different times.
He's got home invasion charges. Why am I the person that is the bad person in this case?
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of DeCuckoo versus Carr. Step forward, please.
19-year-old spa attendant Teresa DeCuckoo is suing her ex-roommate, 20-year-old spa attendant Carol Carr, for breaking a lease. Carol says she gave proper notice.
According to your complaint, Mr. Cuckoo, you and the defendant leased an apartment together. You've been friends for a long time. You thought it would work out. After a couple of months, the defendant moved out.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And you want her to be responsible for her half of the rent for the remainder of the lease so that it doesn't destroy your credit.
That's correct.
Defendant said she thought she was being more than fair. She had to move out. And she says you should get another roommate. When did you sign this lease?
July 14th, 2002.
What was the rent?
The rent was $925. $512.50 was her responsibility.
Are you still there?
No, I'm not.
You're not?
No,
What
I'm not.
happened?
I moved back in with my mother
When?
at the end of October.
Did they re-rent the apartment?
I am not sure, Your Honor.
Well, have you gotten any notifications from the landlord with regard to rent that the landlord
Yes,
claims
I
you
do.
owe? Let me see.
This is my 30-day notice to vacate the apartment.
I'm talking about after you left.
After I left,
Because according to the defendant paid the rent, gave you a check for rent for September. She moved out September 1st, but she gave you her share of September's rent. Is that correct?
Yes, that
And you
is.
don't dispute that, is that right?
no, I don't.
Okay. And you moved out the end of October. So
Yes.
we have October's rent,
Right.
right? Which, based upon what you tell me, is $512.50 would be her share of October's rent up until the time you moved out, and you're suing her for $2,800.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so you're going to have to explain that to me.
Yes. Right. These are the payments I made.
The fees that she was charged to break the lease were $1,836, Ms. Carr.
Yes.
Half of $1,836 is $918. I want you to explain to me why you should not be responsible for $918.
Okay, I gave my 30 days notice like required in the lease contract.
Your
If I
Honor,
needed
that
to
isn't
move
true.
out-
I don't want to hear you unless I come back and look at you. Do you understand?
Yes.
So
No. Pay careful attention to me. You show me your lease, which says that if you give them 30 days notice, you're allowed to break your lease with no consequence by
doesn't-
giving them 30 days notice.
I have where it says the 30 days notice section right here.
What does it say? Read it.
Full term unless owner consents in writing, residence agrees not to move out of the apartment prior to the end of the lease term or renewal of the extension period without the rentals of the entire lease term or renewal or extension period being
Ms. Carr,
paid in
you know what
full.
that means? It means that if the owner agrees, did the owner agree that you move out?
I gave them my written notice. They didn't argue with me.
Ms. Carr, you don't get it. A lease means that if you pay your rent and are a good tenant, the landlord can't throw you out for 12 months. And it means that you are responsible for the rent for 12 months. Just if you decide in the middle of the lease that you don't want to live there anymore, you just can't give them 30 days notice and move out.
Well, I had a bad car accident
That's
at
not
the
her
beginning
problem.
of the month, and that's why.
That's not her problem. That's your problem.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have to be a grown-up. Your first responsibility was you signed a lease with somebody else. Somebody else that could not afford the apartment by themselves. So if it's a toss-up between you putting money towards a new car and moving back with your parents so that you can pay for the car, and living up to your pre-existing responsibility. You have to live up to your pre-existing responsibility. That's a grown-up. You do, however, have to accept your part of the responsibility, which is you had a roommate. It didn't work out. She moved out for whatever reason. You couldn't live there by yourself. It's a very good lesson. You don't take an apartment with a roommate for more rent than you can pay by yourself, the whole thing. Because otherwise you have to move out and you have these fees. She's not going to pay the whole fee, only half. Do you understand?
I actually have other expenses that has incurred while she was there.
Like what?
I have a copy of a couple of utility bills that she refused to pay for.
Can I say a comment about that? Actually, I paid half of the cable and the power. She never gave me a copy of the phone bill, claimed I could get it at sprint.com, but without any account number, I can't access it.
Is this a phone bill?
It's a phone bill and a power bill, Your Honor.
Is this 10346?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, is that for September?
That's for 3 months total.
Up through September 25th?
Yes.
Sprint bill, power bill was $38.75, and that was date to next meter reading October 16th, so that was through September. No. She's not responsible for the power bill. $969. Ladies, it's too bad your friendship is over.
Your Honor, I have one more thing.
Which is?
I did try to contact her,
Which
and
is
she
what?
refused to sign. She refused
Well, she was
contact.
harassed.
Just a minute. What do you want?
She was harassing me.
I didn't. I'm not looking at you. So?
She had refused a letter I sent to her house.
So what?
Saying her statements.
So what? What does that have to do with what I'm talking about now?
Nothing.
Good.
But, excuse me, I also have one more thing.
What?
My moving costs that I had to vacate the apartment with.
That's your problem. Your moving costs are your problem. Sometimes when you take a roommate and things don't work out, you have to move. You think that she's going to pay your moving expenses?
At least half.
Get a roommate. I said you don't have to. You shouldn't be forced to get a roommate if you don't want to, but because you chose not to get another roommate or try to get another roommate and chose to move out, you incurred certain expenses. She's responsible for half of your break lease expenses because she did, in fact, break the lease. So did you. $969 is what she owes you. That's all. Step out.
Now, this is case number 375 on the calendar in the matter of Barnello versus Dunn. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Don't aggravate me. I have a bad throat today. Mr. Barnello.
Yes.
It's your claim that the defendant kicked your truck in a parking lot of a bar. He was a little drunk. Mr. Dunn says that he was, in fact, drunk, right?
Yes.
And he may have hit you, but he didn't kick your car. So let me hear it from the top. Date, time, place.
September 20th at 1 a.m., myself and my friends were leaving the club. Jerry started elbowing one of my friends as we were leaving, and they had exchanged words. It escalated to the parking lot where they exchanged more words, and the police department broke it up.
So the police were there.
The police were there in the parking lot, yes.
Had you known him before?
No, I've never met him or seen him before.
Go ahead.
And we were leaving. I was leaving in my truck by myself. My friends were walking along my truck. They were pretty angry at the time.
What do you mean they were walking along your truck?
They wouldn't get in my vehicle because they were pretty fumed because they had gotten to words with Jerry in the parking lot.
And they're walking alongside of your truck?
One of my friends was walking along the side of my truck.
Go ahead.
And I actually was parked two cars away from Jerry's vehicle and his friend, Chris, which was also the one that kicked my truck in. And we were pulling away, and I was trying to get my friend in the vehicle, and he was pretty heated. He was going to walk home, and I had the windows down. I heard them exchanging words out of their vehicle to my friend that was walking. And Jerry proceeded to get out of his truck with his friend Chris, and I got out of my vehicle to get my friend to get leave, get in my truck, let's leave. We've already been warned once by the police. My friend wouldn't get in my vehicle with me, so I got back in my truck. As soon as I got back in my truck, Chris and Jerry Dunn ran up to my truck and started kicking my truck in as I was sitting in the driver's seat staring at him.
Where did he kick your truck?
He kicked my truck in the door and the extended cab of the truck. I have pictures.
Can I see the pictures, please? All right, Chair. Let's hear from you.
Well, we got to the nightclub approximately 10 o'clock that evening.
So you've been drinking for 3 hours?
Approximately, yes. We were leaving the nightclub, me and a friend of mine and our 2 girlfriends, and another friend of ours that was walking with us to our cars had a confrontation, I guess, with one of his friends. It wasn't me, okay? And after they had had words, the cops had basically came over and said, you know, you guys stop it or whatever, because it was just words. No one had physically done anything yet. At that time, we get in our cars, I get in the back seat, we're leaving the club, we're still in the parking lot, we haven't left yet, and as we're pulling out of the parking lot, this gentleman basically cuts us off in his truck. He's leaving the parking lot and pulls right in front of our car, saying stuff to us outside of his window, still sitting inside of his truck.
He is?
Yes. His friends, like he said, were all outside. There was a bunch, I mean, the whole club was leaving at this time. So there was tons of people in the parking lot. And I guess it was, I don't know how many of his friends, 4 or 5 guys or so, were outside the truck. At that time, the driver of the vehicle that I was in steps out of the vehicle and approaches his truck. As they are saying words to each other, I get out of the truck myself, and I'm coming around the truck, and there's tons of people at that time around both of our cars. And everyone's yelling, screaming, saying stuff to each other. At that point, everyone starts fighting. I don't know if it was him or one of his friends that I had actually gotten a physical confrontation with, but we ended up getting arrested that night. Me and the driver of the vehicle that I was in.
What were you arrested for?
Well, initially we were being arrested, and the cop says he's pressing charges on you guys for, you know, hitting him or whatever, hitting his friend, and
Can't press charges for hitting his friend.
No, that's not correct.
So anyways, this is what the cop says to me.
What were you arrested for, sir?
Well, right here, he tells me it was drunk in public.
What happened with that case?
I went to jail that night, and they gave me this piece of paper, and it was basically a failure to appear for another traffic stop that I had had. They never actually arrested me for drunk in public either, or vandalizing his car or anything.
They gave you a desk appearance ticket. You were supposed to appear there on the 13th of November. What happened?
I went and appeared, and all I had to do was pay for a traffic violation that I had.
You have a police report.
I do not have a police report because I did not press charges for vandalism. And for one reason only, that of the night, they both agreed in front of the officers to pay me for the damages to my vehicle. And they offered me $1,000 cash if I was to come to their house that night. And the officers said there will be no money exchanged in our presence, that this matter will have to be taken somewhere else. And so I asked the officer for any type of information of showing of the incident, and he said he could not give me anything because I didn't press charges. Now, the reason why I didn't press charges is because they agreed to pay me when they were in the back of the car.
Who's they?
Jerry and Chris.
Did Chris pay you?
Chris has paid me his half of the...
When did Chris pay you?
I believe about 3 weeks ago.
How much did he pay you?
He paid me $2,300.
You the girlfriend? Step up. Tell me your name.
My name's Katie.
Katie what?
Katie Rainier.
You were there that night?
Yes, I was.
Were you drunk or sober?
I was sober.
I just want you to think about the moment. This is your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the back of a police car. Do you remember that?
Yes.
How many people were in the back of the police car?
2. Him and
Who?
Chris.
Who?
Jerry and Chris.
Anybody else taken into custody that night?
No.
Now, during the time that they were in the back of the police car, Katie, did you see the plaintiff?
Yes.
Did you see the plaintiff talking to a police officer?
Yes.
Did there come a time when the police officer let your boyfriend and Chris out of the back of the car?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So they took him away?
Yes.
Did they take you away that evening, sir?
Yes.
Where did they take you?
To Sacramento County Jail.
What about Chris?
Him too, yes.
Is it your testimony that after you had a conversation with the officer, The officer let him out of the car?
No, he didn't let him out of the car.
Oh. Well, that's what I thought.
The door was open.
Yeah.
And I was standing right by the door talking to them, and they were begging me the whole time, don't press charges, don't press charges.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, why do you think that Chris only paid half?
I have no idea.
Is it possible that it's because what he's telling me is accurate, that the two of you agreed to pay for the damage to his truck?
No.
I think so.
And later today,
Can I see a withdrawal from your bank for $240?
I don't have that. I got it from the ATM.
Well, if you got it from the ATM, you would have a record of that, sir.
Well, they give you the
Listen to
option
me.
of
You get
whether
it?
you can have it printed out or not printed out. And
Mr. Doherty, are you trying to dance around me, sir?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ryan Barnello says during an argument in a nightclub parking lot, his fellow clubgoer Jerry Dunn damaged his truck. Jerry denies ever touching the vehicle.
Why don't you have a seat? Where is your friend Chris?
He is at home, actually. He's back home.
As far as you know, Chris paid him $2,300?
Yes.
Why?
Because he kicked his vehicle and I didn't.
How much was the damage to the vehicle?
The estimate, I've had two. One for $4,286 and one for $4,412.
Well, why do you think that Chris only paid half?
I have no idea.
Have no idea.
No.
Is it possible that it's because what he's telling me is accurate, that the two of you agreed to pay for the damage to his truck?
No.
No?
No.
I think so. And I think that if I were to call Chris, that's exactly what he would tell me, that he agreed to pay for half the damage and you were going to pay for half the damage to the truck. That's what I think. And since I'm the one who's in charge of thinking here, I'm entering a judgment in the amount of $2,200. That's all. Goodbye.
Lawyers are excused. You may step out.
The judgment was correct. You know, he did kick my truck in and he's paying for it.
Next time I won't beat anybody up outside of a nightclub.
He never touched me that night, so I don't know what he's talking about.
I guess when you finish something instead of start it, you're the one who actually gets in trouble for it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Doherty versus Balin. Step forward, please.
Student Sean Doherty is suing his ex-girlfriend, accounting assistant Melissa Balin, for unpaid rent and for the value of a TV and VCR. Melissa is countersuing for harassment.
Mr. Doherty, according to your complaint, you and the defendant dated briefly. You claim a loan to her. And also you say that you loaned her your mother's broken television and VCR. You want both back.
I had no idea that the TV or the VCR was broken.
When you gave it to her.
Mm-hmm.
When did you begin to date her and when did you stop dating her?
Started dating probably about July and ended it in probably about September.
When was the first loan?
I believe it was electric bill. She paid that back. There was other loans that she paid back.
So she would loan her money and she would give you the money back?
Yeah.
So what kind of loan are we talking about, sir?
The last loan was for her rent.
Her rent. How much?
$240.
When did you make that loan?
I believe it was September 9th.
Tell me the circumstances around that, sir.
She needed the money to pay for her rent.
I assume so. Did she call you? Were you together when she asked you for the money? Tell me about that.
We were together. I was over her apartment when she asked for the money.
What did she say to you? What did you say to her?
She asked me if she could borrow the money, and I said yes. And so I went down to the ATM and took out the money and handed it to her, and she handed it to her landlord.
In cash?
Yes, in cash.
And what about the television and the VCR?
My mother's TV was a 13-inch color TV, and she wanted it for her daughter so she could watch movies. And I said, well, I'll see if she'll lend it to you.
Why would she lend it to her?
Until she got another TV.
Where was it in your mother's house?
The VCR belonged to me. The television belonged to my mother.
Where had it been in your mother's house?
Her spare bedroom.
So nobody was using it?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Did your mother know the defendant?
Yes.
Did your mother know the defendant's daughter?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Miss Balin, let's first talk about the television and the VCR. Tell me about your version of the television and the VCR.
I was going to purchase a television, a small television and a VCR for my daughter's bedroom. He says, well, I have a VCR that I'm not using. He says, and his mother had just moved here. He says she has an extra TV. She doesn't want to let me talk to her. And he called me that night and he said, don't go out and buy one. We've got one you can have.
That sounds more right to me than the story you just told me. Do you understand, Mr. Doherty?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds more close to common sense and the truth that my mom's got an extra
She didn't
one.
have
She's
the
not,
money.
Shh. My mom's got an extra one she's not using. I got a VCR that I'm not using. You can have them for your daughter. That sounds right to me. So let's forget about this television VCR because that's a lot of baloney. Well, let's get to the money. $240 for rent.
No. I did borrow money from him.
He says you borrowed money and you paid it back over the course of the brief time that you were together.
Right.
He said this money in September you didn't pay him back.
I didn't borrow that dollar amount from him.
How much did you borrow from
I
him
borrowed
for rent?
$50 from him.
For what?
I used it for groceries. I was short. I
We're
paid.
talking about rent. He's already said that you borrowed certain money from him that you paid back, smaller amounts, but that on September 9th you needed money for your rent.
I paid my rent. I was short on money. I didn't have any money for groceries that week, and I did ask him if I could borrow $50 so I could purchase groceries because I had just paid my rent.
Okay. And this was on the 9th of September?
Yeah.
You sure about the date?
I don't know exactly what day it was, but it sounds close.
Can I see a withdrawal from your bank for $240, please?
I don't have that. I got it from the ATM.
Well, if you got it from the ATM, you would have a record of that, sir.
I didn't ask for a record for it.
Why not?
Because I was in a hurry to, get back to her place.
No. You get that, sir, when you get a bank statement.
Well, they give you the
Listen to me.
option
You
of whether
get
you
it.
can have it printed out or not printed out. And
Mr. Doherty, are you trying to dance around me, sir?
No.
You get that in your bank statement at the end of the month that says that you withdrew $240 on the 9th of September. It lists every date that there was activity on your account, and it would show September 9th, $240, not the receipt that you got from the ATM. Where is that, sir?
I didn't bring that with me.
Is there any reason why you knew you were coming to court today?
I couldn't find the record for it.
Then you have no case, sir. Do you understand? When you come to court, you're supposed to bring proof. You're supposed to bring evidence. If part of that evidence is a withdrawal from the ATM, you get your bank record. And if you don't have it, you pick up the phone, call the bank, and you say, I misplaced my September statement. Could you send me another?
Well, I have emails that she stated that she was going to pay me back on September 20th.
Fine.
And she
How
said
much
that
did she
would
say
never
she
do
was going to pay you back?
She didn't. It didn't.
She
didn't
says
write it
she
down.
borrowed $50 from you, and she said she paid it back, not
She never-
$240. And there was a very easy way of proving that, sir, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a counterclaim for harassment. You want to tell me about that?
I broke up with Sean just because we weren't really going in the same direction as far as a relationship goes. I realized that his feelings were a lot deeper, and I pretty much just wanted a friendship. After I broke up with him, he would call me during the day, send me emails at work, call me at 11:30 at night, asking me, was I just a summer fling? What am I supposed to tell my daughter? At one point, he called me at about 11:30 at night, and I told him, this is ridiculous. It has to stop. Please just leave me alone. At that point, I stopped answering the phone when he called. I have a caller ID box. I stopped answering the call. He started leaving messages on my voicemail stating the first time he said I owed him $150. Call me. Let's discuss it. Then he called me and said I owed him, I believe it was $280. The next time it was $320. The amounts were never the same. While we were together, his mother was going through an issue with a boyfriend where her boyfriend had said he had given her money. And when she called there, he said, I know you didn't give me any money. I just wanted to get you to call me. Finally, he came over to my house. He was knocking on my door. I went and opened the door. He wasn't there. I walked away. Another knock on the door. This time I opened the screen door and he was standing at the bottom of my steps with his back up against the house. And I hurried up to try and shut the door, and he tried to stick his hand in the door. He's like, I want to talk to you. I had to call my neighbor to come across the street. My witness is here today. She's the one I called to come over. I was terrified. I didn't know what he was going to do. That night I called my friend who works for the sheriff's department. I said, look, I know that he got hurt. I just want him to leave me alone. He needs to just move on.
All right, has he left you alone the last month?
He showed up at a bar that he knows I go to every Friday night. He showed up there this past week, Friday night, and just sat there, made things very uncomfortable for me. I was employed there on Friday nights up until about 4 weeks ago.
Other than that, has he been back to your house?
Not since I called the sheriff on him.
Have the phone calls stopped?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
You finished?
The reason for the phone calls is I was trying to get my stuff back, other than the TV and the VCR. I had clothes there. I had other personal belongings there.
Did you get your stuff back?
The reason that I had to go over her house is because she said that she was going to drop it off, and she never did.
Did you get your stuff?
Yes, I finally got it back.
And you're not going to bother her anymore, are you, Mr. Doherty?
No.
It's over.
Yeah.
Right?
I wasn't, I just went to the bar because I wanted to go.
Okay, but you're not going to bother her anymore.
No.
It's over. Right?
I hope so. I just want him to leave me alone.
It's a little bit more melodramatic.
Okay. Listen, at most, Mr. Doherty, it cost you $240, and at best, you learned the lesson, and that is when you come to court, you got to bring evidence. You can't just, say, I lent her $240, I lent her $320, I lent her $150. Yeah, especially when you have the evidence. It's available to you. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. That's all. Bye-bye.
This is case number 517 on the calendar in the matter of Shubin versus Greaves. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
All right, along with Mrs. Shubin and Mrs. Greaves, I'd like their 2 daughters up here, please. Tell me your first name.
Camellia.
And yours?
Chelsea.
According to what I've read, Chelsea was spending the night at your house. Is that right?
That's correct.
And it is your claim that sometime within that 24-hour period, without your knowledge, consent, or permission, Chelsea drove your car, causing some serious mechanical problems, and you want her mother to pay for half of the damage to your car.
That's correct.
Mrs. Greaves says that she would pay for some of the damage initially. Then the bill came in, and it was a substantial amount of money, and she thinks that your daughter is primarily responsible for what happened with the car, so she's balking at the bill.
That's correct.
Okay. So, Camellia, what date was this when you used your mother's car?
It was, oh my gosh, I think it was October 26th or something. Or not October 26th, December.
Well, October to December. We're not even in the same month.
I know it's the same night of our winter formal, I know that.
Winter formal?
Yes.
When was the winter formal? In what month? Think.
December.
There you go. I knew by the process of deduction we would get somewhere. Ms. Shubin, what was the date in December?
The winter formal was January 11th. That was a Saturday.
Had both of you girls gone to the winter formal?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now tell me what happened with your mother's car.
Well, it was that morning.
Well, tell me what happened. Did you go to sleep?
We went to sleep, we woke up, we were getting ready for the winter formal. We went to the car to get my glitter.
Where was the glitter?
In the passenger seat.
What was the glitter going to be used for?
Our hair.
Why did both of you have to go out to get the glitter?
Because I didn't know where I left it. She was looking on the driver's side, I was looking on the passenger side.
And the car was unlocked?
No, I went inside and I asked my mom if I can get the keys to open the drawer to get the glitter.
Where was your mother when you asked her that question?
She was laying asleep in bed.
And what did she answer you?
She said, well, just go get the glitter inside the car.
And she gave you permission to get the keys?
Yes.
Took the keys and you went outside with Chelsea?
Yes.
And you had the keys in your hand?
Yes.
You opened up the driver's side or the passenger side?
Passenger.
Okay, and?
And then I opened the door for her. I gave her the keys to open the door.
And according to what you told me a moment ago, the glitter was on the passenger seat.
Well, it wasn't on the seat. It was under the seat.
It was under the seat?
Yeah.
What was it doing under? Bert, are you enjoying this as much as I am?
Oh, yes.
I knew you would.
Wonderful tale.
There's nothing like honing your cross-examination skills. You opened up the passenger door.
Yes.
Why are you opening up the driver door?
So she can look on that side.
Yes.
Yes. And her elbow accidentally hit the emergency brake.
Now, where is her body positioned? She's at the driver's side, right?
Yes.
And she's looking under the seat?
Yes. But she was on top of the seat looking under.
No, darling. Listen to me, sweetheart.
Okay.
That doesn't make sense. That may be the story you told your mother. But I want you to see this, okay? Bird, I want you to pull that chair out for me, would you? Just pull it out just a tad. Now, that's the driver's seat in the car.
Yes.
According to you, Chelsea is looking for the glitter under the seat because it's not over the seat. And according to you, she's looking under the driver's seat while sitting in the driver's seat. Is that right?
She was laying on it. She was like...
Show me. Sit down in the driver's seat.
She was like this and then looking under like that.
No. Show me. Show me. She's leaning in the car.
And then she's going like that. She was looking under.
Oh, you can't see anything from where your head is, darling.
She was going like that. That's how she was looking.
And then what happened?
And then she accidentally hit the emergency brake. And
Show me how you do that. Show me how you do that.
She just hit it.
No, show me how you do that. I want to see. She's looking all the way down, right?
Yeah.
Looking get down further. You can't see anything from where you're looking. You can't see anything from where you're looking. You see, what you have to do is if you're looking underneath the seat of the car, you have to look from the outside of the car in order to see all the way underneath. See, now I want you to step out. Step out of the driver's side. Now, stop right there. Turn around. Now, get down and look under the seat. That's right. Now that, a girl. Then you can get down. You can't get down if your feet are on top of the car seat. So that's the story you told your mother. It's a story I don't buy. But let's continue on with your fairy tale. Her hand accidentally hit the emergency brake and the car did what?
Started rolling back.
And what happened when it rolled back?
She pushed the brake in.
With her hand?
No, with her foot.
How did she? Oh, that's good. Okay, so show me now. Now I want you to lean over and show me how she's looking underneath. Okay, show me she's underneath. Okay, now just a second. Let's do this slowly because you're watching her, right?
Yes.
You're watching her carefully.
Yes.
Then down. You're looking. Now,
Yeah.
hand accidentally hit the emergency brake, which is
And then
where?
it went like that.
Like there. Now, show me with what foot did she
got
put?
down and went like that. And pushed
Oh,
the
she
gas,
immediately
brake
turned
in.
around and sat down.
Yeah.
Oh, now I understand. Now it all becomes clear. Now, somehow, from the time that her foot miraculously got a hold of the emergency brake, in order to stop the car from rolling backwards, you got into the passenger seat of the car, and she takes the key, which she's holding, and puts the key in the ignition and turns it on.
Yeah.
Now, I want to know what happened first. Did you get into the passenger side first?
Yes.
And after you got into the passenger side, what happened with the key?
What happened with the key?
Yeah, she's holding the key. She is just, oh, I'll get to you in a minute. Okay. So, get to you in a minute.
Okay.
Now that you see what can happen to you, we're going to get to you in a second.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Now, she's holding the key in her hand.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
She's holding the key in the hand and she turned on the car.
First, she has to put it in the ignition.
Yeah.
Well, what did she say when she put it in the ignition?
She said that she was going to pull it up.
Pull it up where?
But she said she knew how to drive a stick. I don't know how to drive a stick, so I couldn't pull it up.
Keep going.
And then she pulled back and then went up the street. And while she was going up the street, she was grinding the gears. And smoke was going out the back.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Shh! You weren't there. All right, Chelsea.
Okay.
Version 2.
Okay. We went into her mom's car, and what happened?
Just a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about this glitter. Is that why you went into the car?
We went in there to look.
Look at my eyes.
We went in there to look for the glitter and to talk, because her mom was asleep, and we didn't want to awake her mom.
Just a minute. How big is her house, or does she have a one-room apartment?
No, she has a house.
How many rooms are in the house?
I think 3. There are 3 bedrooms.
Oh, well, so there are 3. There are 3 bedrooms.
Yes.
And I assume that her mother only sleeps in one of those rooms.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Then can you explain to me why you had to go into the car to talk?
Well, we were also looking for the glitter. We were sitting down and we were looking, and my arm, my elbow, hit the emergency brake. We rolled back, we rolled down. She ran in to get the keys in the car, and she's like, "Can you drive a stick?" I said, "Yes." And she
Hold
said,
on a second. So here we have a little different story. Here you did not have the keys to the car
No, the
before you
car
got
was
out
open.
there. The car was open.
Yes.
So then she goes inside and gets the keys and comes back outside.
Yes.
And what do you do next?
She's like, "Can you drive a stick?" And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "Why don't you go into the cul-de-sac and drive back up?"
Why is that?
Because it was at a better angle than just driving it back up the driveway, because we didn't want her mom to know, because we were afraid her mom was going to be upset. So we went to the cul-de-sac, and she's like, "Well, why don't you just go up the street?" We went up the street 2 times and pulled back in.
What did you say to her when she said, "Well, why don't we just go up the street"?
I said, "Okay."
Why?
Because thought it would be fun just to go joyriding.
Car making a lot of noise when you had it out?
No, it didn't grind at all.
Okay. Now, at some point, you got up.
That's correct.
What time did you get up?
It was about 10:30.
When did you go out to your car?
I ended up going outside probably about 11:30.
11:30, you got into your car?
That's about the time that I got into the car and pulled out of the driveway.
Okay. Where were you going?
I had to go pick my nephew up from school.
And where is that?
That's about 2 miles from my house.
So you drove 2 miles there and 2 miles back, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So when you got home and you sensed that something wasn't right with your car, what did you do?
I immediately confronted Camellia and Chelsea.
And what did they tell you?
They proceeded to deny to me that they knew anything was wrong with the car. And then Chelsea told me that her elbow hit the emergency brake, and
they gave you this baloney story about the elbow hitting emergency brake.
And they miraculously pushed the car back up into the driveway.
Okay, but that wasn't true because they actually drove the car.
I found out later that evening that they did.
Did you have the car fixed?
Yes, I did.
And how much did it cost you to have it fixed?
A total of $1,877.50. And I have the invoices here.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
You don't think that she should pay that whole amount, I assume?
That is correct. We initially agreed to split the costs when I spoke to Sandra. But
and that was for the clutch. And I was willing to pay for 2/3 of the clutch because of Chelsea's participation in their joyride, but...
You're not responsible for 2/3 of the clutch. Listen, I don't even think that you're responsible for half, but I do think that you're responsible for a portion of this bill. I'm going to tell you why you're responsible for more. Because her daughter was an invited guest at your house. And what you're supposed to do, and you're supposed to be vigilant about, is when you have teenagers in your house, you are supposed to make sure that they can't get their hands on your car keys. That's your responsibility. According to your daughter, you gave her permission to have control of your car. That's according to your daughter, right?
Mm-hmm. Can I also raise a point?
Sure.
I was up till about 3 o'clock in the morning when she had stayed the night also because I try to be a good role model parent to keep an eye on teenagers because I don't know what they have in mind.
You're absolutely right. You never can tell.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
My other brother who I was in business with, who my mother talked me into going into business with this brother.
How old are you?
Old enough to know better.
So don't blame anybody else for your mistakes. I want to hear about the $3,000.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Delinda Shubin claims her car was damaged by her daughter's friend, 14-year-old Chelsea Greaves. Chelsea says Delinda's daughter, 15-year-old Camellia, is also to blame.
Okay. All I'm telling you is it was your responsibility to be vigilant and to make sure that these two girls couldn't get their hands on your car keys, because if something had happened to her daughter, you would have been responsible. Now, that doesn't let you off the hook totally, because you knew you were doing the wrong thing, right?
Yes.
And I have to attempt to earmark responsibility, because certainly the one who's going to suffer is your mother. Not her fault, right? You didn't have any money. How old are you?
14.
So you didn't have any money. The one who's going to suffer is your mother. Now, she had no responsibility whatsoever. She assumes that if her daughter is staying over at somebody else's house, the other adult responsible is going to make certain that their kids can't get into trouble or can't get hurt. But unfortunately, you are partially responsible. And I think you're a third responsible. I think you're a third responsible, and I think you're a third responsible, and I think you're a third responsible. Because I don't think that your mother should be half responsible when the plaintiff was in a position to say to her daughter, you can't have my car keys. You want to go looking for glitter? I'll go look for the glitter with you. I'm not giving you the keys to the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600, which is 1/3 of the damage. That's all.
Others are excused. You may step out.
They didn't feel they were responsible at all.
I just don't think that she caused the problem.
Actually, I never asked her to take it around the block. I was wrong, and I really wish I could take it back because I wouldn't do it.
I know I'm never going joyriding ever again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jacobson versus Cole. Step forward, please.
Aaron Jacobson is suing his sister, flight attendant Kelly Cole, for an unpaid loan to pay her bills. Kelly says she assumed the money was a gift.
Mr. Jacobson, you claim a loan to the defendant, who's your sister,
Yes.
the amount of $3,000. Your sister acknowledges that you gave her $3,000, but your sister says it wasn't a loan, it was a gift. When did you make this loan?
In April.
Tell me about it.
My partner had passed away in March, and I hadn't really seen my sister since 2000. And when he passed away, she showed up at the wake. Then after that, there has been a couple of times that I had talked to her sporadically on the phone, and she had told me that, you know, her roommate had gave her some bad checks and that she was in need of some cash. So I asked her how much would be the minimum that she would need to pay her car payments, the child care for her daughter, and her utility bills. And she said $3,000. So I told her that I could probably swing that.
And when you handed her the money, what kind of conversation did you have?
Well, I told her that I could loan her the money and I needed it to be repaid, but I told her I would loan it to her at a 0% interest, you know, because she was in need.
Why didn't you speak to your sister for the 2-year period between 2000 and 2000?
My sister and my brother were in business together, and he had gotten hurt. So then when he was in the hospital, my sister sort of just swung in, and she wanted to take over the business. And in that time, they were behind on all their bills. So then my mom got involved into it. Then she started running the business with my brother, and then my sister was out of it. So there was a big family dispute over the whole entire mess.
Did you ask your sister back for this money?
Yes.
When?
Every month.
What did she say?
She would show me a stack of bills, and she says, I don't have any to give to you. And in August, she just blew up and was like yelling and using foul language. And then she told me that I should have told you months ago that I was not ever going to pay you.
All right, Ms. Cole, let's hear your version of these events.
Where would you like me to start?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, I would like you to start on the 29th of April when your brother handed you $3,000.
April.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Let's start at April. Okay. He gave me the $3,000. I had driven out there. I had not spoken to either one of them for over a year, not because my brother was hurt. My other brother, who I was in business with, who my mother talked me into going into business with this brother.
How old are you?
Old enough to know better.
So don't blame anybody else for your mistakes. I want to hear about the $3,000.
Okay, the $3,000.
So your brother gave you $3,000 because you said you were behind on your bills. Why didn't you pay him back?
Because I assumed that it was a gift, because I didn't find out until 2 weeks later from my Aunt Carol, who had gone to a picnic with them. She came back to me, she goes, Kelly, do you know that gift that your brother gave you was a loan?
Listen to me, I'm not interested in what somebody said to you outside of this courtroom.
Yes.
I want to know why, in your mind, you think that this brother, who you weren't in business with, would give you $3,000.
Because he and my mother went into the company after my brother was stabbed and took the company, went into bank accounts, took money, back-charged my account, which put me $27,000 in debt, and turned around and deposited into their new DBA account. They took over the business. Both of them.
Miss Cole, I think that you have a persecution complex. So far, you have two brothers and a mother. You're not talking to your mother, this brother, or your other brother, because everybody is trying to scam you. Is that right?
Not everybody's trying. They've always done it.
Is there any particular reason for that?
Because I was very close to my grandmother.
Oh, you are a very sick girl. You owe your brother $3,000. Pay it. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
This is case number 314 on the calendar in the matter of Sands versus Azarovich. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Mr. Sands, the defendant is the girlfriend of your former landlord.
Correct.
And it is your claim that during an argument that took place really between your landlord and you, that the defendant assaulted you, caused you substantial injury, caused you to be seen by a doctor, caused you substantial pain and suffering, and you want to be compensated for that.
Correct.
Ms. Esarovich, is your boyfriend here today?
Yes.
Is that this gentleman right here?
Yes.
Okay. You had been a tenant of his for some time. There had been some problems. You wanted the place painted because you said there was paint chipping. He wasn't responsive to your request. You called the housing department. He was forced to paint. You say in retaliation to that, they moved to have you evicted. You ultimately won a settlement from them. So far, is that generally what happened?
Yes.
Now, the garage space had become an issue. Is that right, Mr. Sands?
Yes.
This is when this altercation took place. Now, Mr. Sands, why don't you tell me the date that this incident took place?
It was on September 7th of 2001.
And tell me what happened.
Miss Esarovich and Mr. Evanson approached the gate of the yard leading into my house. I was outside and I asked them if there was something I could do to help them, and they didn't answer, but they proceeded to go into the garage, which was part of the property that I had been renting for in excess of 4 years.
Well, do you have a lease?
I do.
And does the lease include the garage?
It wasn't specified.
If it's not specified, it doesn't include the garage.
However, I had been in full use of the garage for the entire term of my tenancy without sharing it with any other tenants.
Listen, if you have a lease that says that you are renting a house and there is another property on that land, some other edifice, and if it's not specified that you have use of that, that your rent also includes that, you're not entitled to it. In any event, they came on the property that you were renting in order to deal with this garage issue. Let's proceed from there.
Okay, well, they proceeded to walk into the garage. I didn't know what they were doing because they hadn't responded to me when they came into the yard. So I followed them into the garage and I asked them what they were doing. And they told me that they were looking at their garage. And I said that you need to have given me 24 hours of written notice to, you know, examine the property.
It's not your property. Garage is not your property. They didn't go into your house, did they?
Well, they went into something that I viewed as being included in the property.
That's your view. That's your view. That's not their view. That's not my view. They don't have to give you written notice of going and looking at their property. What if there was a guest house on your property? A guest house on the property?
According to the officials that I spoke to at the
I'm telling you,
rent
I don't
control-
believe that.
Okay.
So let's move on.
Sure.
They went to look at their property.
Okay. And I told them that I would have to call the police, which I then did. I went back into the house, and at that point I asked Emily, who's a friend of mine who had showed up to go to this yoga class with me, to bring me out my regular phone. At that point, I dialed 911 on the regular phone. The police came eventually onto the phone. At that point, the landlord and this woman came out of the garage. She saw Emily standing near the house and started screaming at her.
What was she saying?
She said, "Who is this woman? She is not allowed to be on the property. She is not on your lease. Where are your wife and children? And you are a liar," and et cetera, et cetera. At that point, I walked up and stood between the two of them and said, "She is allowed to be on the property. She's my guest, and you can't come and scream at a guest of mine.
Absolutely right.
You need to leave. This is inappropriate." At that point, I felt my arms pulled behind me like this. And I realized that it was the landlord, Mr. Evanson, who had grabbed me from behind. He then pulled my shirt up around my neck and through my mouth and started strangling me. At that point, I became relatively concerned and I started screaming for help. I continued to scream for help until I couldn't speak anymore. He choked me so forcefully.
Could we move this on a little faster, please?
Sure.
Good.
After that, Mila walked up, and I assumed that she was going to tell him to let me go, but she didn't. She stood at a 45-degree angle to me, and she kicked my right knee in.
That's what we're talking about.
That's what this suit is based on.
Okay. Now, I want you to tell me your version of the events, and please try to do it a little faster.
Okay, this is on the date of September 7, at 6 o'clock approximately. Okay, well, before
Just, you get there. Okay. You go into the garage.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Sands, he closed the door behind us and turned the lights off and left us in the dark.
Go ahead.
His dog was viciously barking at us.
Where was the dog?
The dog was by his side.
Was the dog on a leash?
No.
Go ahead.
Then he approached me and started threatening me.
What did he say?
Well, he approached me as close like that, you know, to my face, and started threatening me and screaming.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I never kneed him in the groin.
Just a minute. What do you mean you may have injured him?
I was trying to escape by elbowing him.
I think that's a crocker who shot John.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Charles Sands says his former landlord's girlfriend, Mila Azarovich, assaulted him by kicking him in the knee. Mila says Charles kicked her fiancé in the groin.
Go ahead.
Then Lars was concerned about my safety. He circled his arms around Charles Sands.
From the back?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And he's very experienced in this kind of situation, how to handle it in non-violent manner.
He circled him, he immobilized him.
Right.
Go ahead.
At that moment, Charles Sands kicked him in the groin area very hard. The next moment, Charles Sands took a bat in his hand and hit Lars in his face, then in his ribs, and Lars fell on the concrete floor. Rick Sanchez came out. He tried to pull them.
Who is Mr. Sanchez?
Is
he a neighbor?
Yes.
Would you step up, sir?
Sure.
You're Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
How long have you been a tenant?
10 years.
Did you witness any of this altercation?
I did.
Would you tell me what you saw, sir?
On that evening, approximately the same time that both of them mentioned, I had been traveling. I came home, I was laying on my couch, and I heard some screams for help, 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 help.
Male voice, female voice?
It was a male voice. It was a male voice. And knowing that Chuck lives in the back, I didn't know if a vehicle had fallen on him or whatever the case was. And I went to the back bedroom, looked out the window. And when I looked out the window, I saw Mr. Evanson had Mr. Sands around the neck from behind with his shirt around his neck and was holding him, not allowing him to move. I decided to go outside. I went out and I told Mr. Evanson, you don't want to do this, let go of Chuck, let's stop this, at which time he did. Mila was out there also at the time, and of course there was some screaming and yelling and what have you. And he let go of Chuck, and I think I mentioned to Chuck's girlfriend to call the police. I don't know if she already had or not, but I said, call the police. And I went back in the house, and when I went back in the house, I heard some more commotion, so I came back out. Mr. Evanson and Mr. Sands were at separate ends of the yard, and at which time I said, this needs to stop. And I think Mila at that point had forced Lars out the back gate, and they exited the property.
Did you see either of these two gentlemen injured in any way?
No, I did not.
Didn't see him injured?
I didn't see him injured.
And you didn't see him injured?
I did not.
Did you hear either one of them complain about being injured?
No, I did not.
Didn't limp? You didn't see him limp?
I didn't notice.
He didn't say anything to you. I'm injured,
He
call
did
an
not
ambulance.
he did not say anything to me.
Call an ambulance, I need medical attention?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Oh. What kind of property is this, Mr. Sanchez?
It's a rental property that has a rental above. I live on the bottom floor, and then in the back there is another residence there, which is where Mr. Sands lives.
And what about this garage? Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, it's a removed area. You have the back part of the house, and then probably 5 to 8 feet there's a garage there.
Who uses that garage?
I really never knew. I don't know.
You don't use it?
I do not use it, no.
Do you have a lease?
I do.
Does your lease provide for use of any garage space?
No, it does not.
Did you ever have occasion to call the Board of Health or anyone else with regard to the property and its being in unsafe condition?
I never made a call like that, no.
Thank you. Have a seat. Okay, so you got kicked in the knee, Mr. Sands. Let's hear the rest.
So she kicked me in the knee.
That's what you told me. And this was on the 7th of September?
Yes.
Can I see the medical reports, please? By the way, tell me about the settlement that you won when you sued them. How many times have you sued them?
No, I didn't actually sue them. What happened was I had complained about lead-based paint that was flaking off of the house and had been doing that for basically the entire term of my tenancy. I have 2 small children, and I was very concerned about this. I told them that I was going to have to complain to the city. They said, do whatever you want, and I did that. The city came out, issued them an order to comply, and within a week they filed to evict me.
Repainted. Oh, they filed to evict you?
Right. The only grounds that they could use if I hadn't done anything wrong, they said that they were going to move into my house.
Okay.
So within a week of them receiving this order to comply, they had filed to evict me.
Go ahead.
We were involved in this eviction process wherein they tried to say that my children didn't live with me, et cetera, et cetera.
Do they live with you?
Yes, they do. They were attempting to do that so that they wouldn't have to pay me the full relocation fee, which is required by the Rent Control Board. After several court appearances, they settled for a relocation sum that was considerably larger than they would have had to pay in the first place.
Which is what?
$5,000 is the amount that a family is entitled to for relocation.
Is that what you got?
No, actually I got in the neighborhood of $8,000.
That sounds pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Well, considering
Let me ask
that
you this question. Diagnostic impression here is that you have, other than one knee contusion, and you went to the doctor, I see, a day later, not that day. So you weren't feeling too badly that day. You went a day later. You have mild something right, something strain, right shoulder abrasion, mild soft tissue trauma to the neck, okay? So you take a little aspirin. Since none of the last three of these injuries is attributed to the defendant, but attributed to the landlord, I'm curious as to why you chose to sue her instead of him.
Well, as I was being assaulted, let me continue.
No. Just answer my question. You answer my question.
Okay, there's two reasons. First of all, I don't believe that Mr. Evanson is fully responsible for his actions. He has had some brain injury in the past, and I think he may be being manipulated by this woman. Secondly, as I was trying to escape, in my struggle, I may have injured him. However, I never kneed him in the groin.
Just a minute. What do you mean you may have injured him? How may you have injured him, sir?
As he was choking me from behind. He's considerably taller than I am.
I see that.
I was trying to escape by elbowing him.
Mm-hmm.
So I may have injured him.
So it's a fair statement, so that the reason you didn't sue him and chose to sue her, you felt that he may have a defense of self-defense, and she had none.
No, not precisely.
Yeah. Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
My name is Emily Gray.
Where do you live, Miss Gray?
I live in Newport Beach.
Okay. Tell me what your relationship is with Mr. Sands.
I'm a good friend of Mr. Sands.
Do you know his wife?
Yes, I do.
What's her name?
Anne.
Where does Anne live?
She lives in San Pedro as well. I don't know the exact location.
But she doesn't live with Mr. Sands?
Not presently.
That is correct. She does not live with Mr. Sands.
She does not live with him now.
And she was not living with him in September of 2001?
She might have just moved out.
Right. Now, how old are Mr. Sands' two children?
His son is about 14 and his daughter is about 7.
And who do those children live with?
They live with him.
They live with him. And they were living with him in September of 2001 after his wife moved out?
Yes.
Does he have permanent custody of those children?
I don't know exactly the details. They spend weekends with their mothers. Otherwise, they're mainly at his house.
Where do they go to school from?
What do you mean from?
Where do they go to school from? From your house?
Yeah.
Both of them?
Right.
Okay. Do you have joint custody of the children?
My son and my daughter are from 2 different marriages.
Do you have joint custody of your children, sir?
I have primary custody of my son, and there is no actual paperwork because we're only separated. My daughter's mom and I are only separated.
They still get along. I mean, you and your ex-wife still get along.
My daughter's mom and I get along pretty well. And
I'm not interested in that, whether you still get along pretty well or not. I'm just interested in why somebody gave you $8,000 to move.
Because it was established that the kids live with me.
You're on the rules.
Now, was he treated for any injuries that he sustained that day?
Yes.
You have the medical report on that?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
He saw that his tooth was knocked out. So I just...
All right, and his diagnosis is groin contusion, facial contusion, and prescription is ice and Motrin in the evening for pain. So you were right, Mr. Sands. You did injure him. Mm-hmm. Did he sue you?
No.
Why do you think that is, sir?
Because any injuries that he sustained were due to self-defense on my part. He attacked me from behind, and he...
Think you both behaved badly that day?
No, I don't. I don't believe I behaved badly. I tried to escape.
If you tried to escape, sir, you had already gotten outside of the garage. You went inside to get a telephone.
None,
you went inside. Pay careful attention to me, sir.
Okay.
You went inside to get a telephone before anything happened to call 911. And you said you walked outside. Now, if you wanted to diffuse a situation before anything happened, you stay inside, you call 911.
Actually, I was concerned that they might do something strange in my garage. We were at that point embroiled in a bitter eviction matter. I didn't know what they were capable of.
Well, Mr. Sands, I know this, sir. I know.
So I was keeping an eye on
They
them.
paid you $8,000 in order to get you and your children, who were there sometimes and not there other times, to move. And I know that this gentleman, who you described as someone who may not be functioning optimally because of some injury, was more injured than you were that day. That I know for sure from reading the medical records. And you said that the reason you didn't sue him is because you felt sorry, because you didn't think that perhaps he understood everything that was going on. And I think that that's a crocker who shot John. I think that the reason you didn't sue him is because his injuries were more severe than yours. And if he got kicked in the shins by his girlfriend, so be it. You got $8,000 from them. You're not getting another penny, Mr. Sands. Goodbye.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Atkins versus Williams. Step forward, please.
Nurse Latricia Atkins is suing her sister-in-law, store owner Alice Williams, for unpaid wages and reimbursement for merchandise. Alice says Latricia was supposed to be a volunteer.
Miss Atkins, the defendant is your sister-in-law. She had been married to your brother, who passed away recently. Is that right?
Yes.
When did your brother pass away?
June 2nd of 2000.
How did he die?
Actually, he had a drowning. We don't actually know what really happened.
It is your claim that you went into a partnership with your sister-in-law in a small business. You had been doing some selling at fair,
like swap meets, different people.
And you'd been selling children's clothing?
No, mostly adult clothes.
In any event, your sister-in-law said she was interested in going into a business, and according to you, she put up the money and you put up the skill.
Yes.
And the know-how. And you worked and you kept waiting for profits. There were no profits, she said, because she took care of the books. And you are suing her now for what you believe is your fair share of the work that was done.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Williams says that there was never a partnership. You helped her out. You volunteered out of the goodness of your heart. That there was never an arrangement to share the profits. This was her business and her business only. She put up the money. You put up nothing. And she owes you nothing. That's your position.
Absolutely. With the exclusion of she was a phenomenal help for me. Basically, when I asked her...
I didn't ask you anything yet. Did you say basically
Absolutely,
that's correct?
yes.
Correct. Okay. Tell me about how this business started with your sister-in-law.
Well, I was in school, and I didn't have any income, so I decided to start taking the little money that I did have and start selling clothes. And she approached me at a barbecue at my sister's house in Lancaster and said that, oh, looks like you're doing pretty good. I would like to be basically a silent partner. You can go find the place and everything, and which I did. I found the place. And,
just a second.
Okay.
How long had you been doing your selling before she approached you?
Probably a couple of months. I was doing my own thing.
How much money did you make in the 2 months that you were in business before going into an association with your sister-in-law?
Oh, I was making like maybe close to $200-300 a week.
$200 or $300
yes.
a week?
Yes.
Okay. Then she approaches you and you went and got a different booth?
Yes, she said, you know, I got a little money on the side that I can really, you know, help out, but you can go find the place and I'll basically be a silent partner.
So did you go find a larger place?
Yes, I went and found a larger place.
When?
It was September 13th.
Of what year?
Of 2002.
And how many days a week did you work there?
Just 3 days a week.
How many weeks did you work there?
September 13 to November 20th.
Is that about right?
Yes.
You handled the money, is that right?
Yes, I did.
How much money did you, when you were handling the money, turn over to Miss Atkins during that time?
None, because there was...
Just you turned over none. And it is your testimony, Miss Williams, very succinctly, that Miss Atkins gave up her business that she was in for 2 months prior to your approaching her in order to go into your business 3 days a week for approximately 12 weeks as a volunteer. Is that what you want me to believe? I just asking you, is that what you want me to believe?
Yes.
I don't. I don't.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Ms. Williams, makes no sense for someone who has a business making some extra money. I don't know if it was $200 to $300. I'm not so sure about that. Even if it was $50 a day, it is incredible that she would give up her business to go in and work 3 days a week in your business and not expect to be compensated. It's ridiculous. And it's not true. She had her own business. You mean to tell me she gave it up? She wasn't in love with you. She gave up her business to come and volunteer with yours for nothing? It just didn't happen, Miss Williams. You took advantage of her. So you got to pay for that. Do you look like you're losing?
No.
Now, it's going to be absolutely impossible for me to go back and to say to you, well, what merchandise did you have? What did you sell it for? Because that would have been a partnership. You put up the money. She goes in there and devotes her time. But certainly $50 a day is an appropriate amount of money to pay somebody who works 8 hours a day. And that you're going to pay her. So far, she owes you $1,320. Anything else?
No, thank you very
Good.
much.
Thank you very much. That's all.
Yeah, this is case number 413 on the calendar, the matter of Austin versus Wynn. Thank you. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Miss Austin, the defendant is your former boyfriend, according to the complaint that I've read, and you lived together for a period of time. Is that right?
That's correct.
According to you, you had an argument with him. During that argument, he assaulted you.
Yes, ma'am.
Later, he went out and vandalized your car, destroyed your property that was inside your house, then came back into your house at a later date, broke into your house, destroyed some more property. Mr. Wynn says that he never assaulted you. As a matter of fact, you assaulted him, that you destroyed your own property, vandalized your own car because you had a hissy fit, and he doesn't owe you a dime. Is that right, sir?
Just about right.
I didn't ask you anything.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Miss Austin, how long did you live together?
We lived together for about 8 months.
Did he move into your house, or did you move into his, or did you take a place together?
Well, the lease was in my name, but he moved in with me at the same time as I moved in.
When did you have this argument?
The argument started November 26th on our way home from work.
Okay, well, what happened on the 26th of November?
We were on our way home from picking up the kids from school, and we were talking, and we
Well, were you on the way home from work or school?
Well, we was on our way home from work, but on the way home from work, we pick up the children from daycare and from my sister's house.
Whose children?
My children, my 2 sons.
Were they in the car when you had this argument?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
4 and 7.
What was the argument about?
Well, we were having a discussion, and Mr. Wynn stated that I looked old. From that discussion, it
Well, what did
became
he
an argument.
say? I want to hear what he said.
Well, he said that when he met me that I looked old. He was attracted to older women. When he met me, that was one of his attractions because I looked old at the time that he met me.
That's not true. That's not how it actually went.
Okay, and
Okay.
go ahead. So, and you said?
From that, I got offended, and we started having an argument about that.
Well, tell me what you said to him.
Well, I told him that, well, at first I didn't say anything, and then I told him that I didn't know that he thought that I looked old, and I did take offense to him saying that.
You weren't speaking the same way you're speaking to me now.
No, ma'am.
You were screaming at each other.
Not at that point, we weren't screaming at each other. We didn't, the screaming didn't actually start until we got to our home.
And what was the screaming about?
Well, this argument progressed on, so we started discussing other things like financial, him not being able to support our home financially and different things like that. And Mr. Wynn then left the house in my vehicle, and when he left, he stayed gone like 2 hours. When he returned, he laid his keys on the table and went to the bathroom. When he laid his keys on the table, I went to get my car key off of his key ring. He then came out of the bathroom, and it advanced into a struggle. He tried to take the keys away from me, and I wouldn't give him the keys. So at that time, he then punched me in the stomach and then the back of the head, and I fell on the floor. Okay. At that time, he punched me in the stomach and the back of the head, and I fell on the floor.
Where were your children?
They were in their bedrooms asleep.
But then they woke up.
Right. My younger son woke up. At that time, when he punched me in the stomach and the back of the head, I tried to call the police, so I reached for the phone. At the time, Mr. Wynn grabbed the phone and ripped the phone lines out of the wall. I got up and tried to go into the kitchen and use the phone as well. He ripped that one and the phone in the children's room out of the wall as well.
Let me see the police report. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Wynn then left out of the door and went outside and started to remove items from my vehicle that he had placed on there.
Like what?
Like lights. He puts neon lights on the vehicle and different things like that. And I went out the back door and ran down the street to the payphone to call 911. When I returned, Mr. Wynn was already gone with both sets of keys to our house and my car, and had locked my sons inside of my apartment.
So what did you do?
The police came. When the police came, they helped me beat on the door, and my 7-year-old son woke up and came and opened the door for us to get in.
You have pictures of the car?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'd like to see it. Okay, go ahead.
About 3 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Wynn returned to our residence. He came in and he went to my children's room because that's where he kept a basket with some of his clothing in it. So when I went in the room, I told him he was not going to take the car again. At that time, he informed me that his mother was outside of our home waiting for him. So I told him, since it was 3 o'clock in the morning and want to wake the children, I would help him move his things out. So I started taking things out to his mother's car. She had her trunk open of her car, and I started putting things in there. At that time, Mr. Wynn went into my apartment and started throwing things out of the apartment, like my dolphin. I collect dolphin figurines. He threw them out. The children had 2 small betta fish, and they had 2 little separate tanks. He threw those out the front door and killed both of the fish. He took a hammer, my hammer, and burst my 10-gallon fish tank. I had an Oscar fish in it. He took a hammer and burst the fish tank, ruined the carpet in the living room, and glass was everywhere. And so I took and ran up the hill and back down to the corner and used the payphone again to call 911.
You have another police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
This police report is of another incident. That one, the first one that you have, states that they came back a second time.
This is from another incident?
Yes.
When was this?
I left town on that same day and went to my hometown. Stayed gone for about 3 days. When I returned, Mr. Wynn had broken into my apartment because I had the locks changed before I left and ruined several things, taken several things, jewelry, different things like that from my apartment while I was out of town. He had poured pills in my sink in my bathroom, broken glass in my bathtub.
Now I'll hear you, Mr. Wynn.
Actually, I'm gonna start from the beginning just like she did. The ride home, we was having a mutual conversation. She basically said, "You thought I was some young girl, this and that and that and this." I said, "No, I thought you were older." Then she said, "What does that mean?" I said, "You could take it or leave it how you want it." She kind of got offended by it or whatever. Basically said nothing the rest of the ride home. When we get to the house...
I'd like you to look at me when you're speaking.
When we get to the house, she basically brings up the incident again. So you think... She said...
look at me, right here.
She said... Trying to breathe. She said that you offended me. She said you offended me when you called me old. I said I did not call you old. And she was like, "Well, you need to apologize." I said, "I'm not apologizing because I did not call you old." She basically told me I would be sorry. So I got offended by that. You know what I'm saying? Took a shower and I planned on going to sleep after that. She came yanking covers off of me, telling me that I need to get up, do this, do that. And I told her, I said, "I'm not finna talk to you to be arguing with you, so I'm finna go."
So you told her you were leaving?
Yes.
And you left?
I left.
And how did you go?
I left as, you know, like any normal, I wasn't mad.
No, did you leave in her car?
It was, you know, at that time, what's mine is yours and yours is mine. That's how we had it.
What did you have? Shh, listen to me.
I'm sorry.
What did you have?
At that time?
Did you have an apartment?
No.
Did you have a car?
No.
So what did you bring to the table?
I brought whatever, you know, at that time I provided.
That's a reasonable question. Why are you looking like that? It's a reasonable question.
Right.
What did you bring to the table? What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine, is what you're saying.
Right. And, you know, it's basically...
Right, that's what I thought you were saying.
Whenever we needed anything in the apartment or anything like that, I would either get it or she would get it or we'd go together and get it.
All I asked you was, what was it that you brought? She had the home, she had the car. What did you bring?
I went half with her on the deposit, half with her on the rent, and whatever other bills we did. So that's how it basically was. It's like we went half and half on everything.
So you left in her car?
Right.
And what happened when you came back?
When I found out she wasn't asleep, I seen she was trying to take keys out the key ring, which to the car, and also at the time I thought the apartment too. And I tried to take the keys from her. You see what I'm saying? And at that time, she punched me.
That's not true.
Don't interrupt him.
She punched me 2 times, and I reacted in punching her.
We're going to go through this carefully.
Okay.
She's taking the keys off the ring.
Right.
You come into the room.
Right.
You go over to her.
Okay. The way she had the keys,
in her hand.
My key ring has like a little long thingy on it. I reached out and grabbed it. I basically put them on the couch, in the back of the couch, turned my back towards her. At that time, that's when I was punched, and when I was punched, I turned around and punched her.
Show me how you were punched.
She punched me like, you know, it was 2 hits, and it was more like a you know what I'm saying? It was 2 hits, just that quick, and just as quick as she hit me, I hit her back.
Now what happened next, sir?
I really vaguely don't remember how we ended up outside, but when I ended up outside, she told me to get all my stuff out the car, you know, all the stuff that I put on the car, take it off. She jumps in the car, I jumps in the car. She yanking lights off and everything on the inside of the car because I had the neons on the inside of the car. I said, just let me take them off. When I get my tools out the trunk of the car, she's telling me she's going to call the police or whatever.
So you're telling me she's vandalizing her own car?
At that time, yes.
I don't think I believe that.
That's not true.
I don't think I believe that. I may believe some of the things that you tell me, but I don't believe that she's vandalizing her own car, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
That's a lie, Your Honor. She came and got all her stuff. Her sister even took her.
If you say one more thing to me without my looking at you, then I'm going to grant her petition. Do you understand?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Aisha Austin claims ex-boyfriend Marcus Wynn destroyed her belongings out of rage. Marcus says the rage was mutual.
I want to know what you did with her son's fish. Look at my eyes.
Okay. I went in the house and I went inside the room to gather some clothes because I wasn't planning on staying for the rest of that week.
The fish.
Right. I'm getting to that part.
Get there.
Okay. When she noticed I was trying to leave, she started grabbing my dishes and, like she said, throwing them in the back of my mom's car and was breaking them at the same time. I kind of got agitated and I started throwing her stuff out. She started throwing stuff of mine out. I started just picking up stuff and going crazy myself. I took the fish, threw them around, went across the fish tank with a hammer. And that's just plain and simple.
Got there. Then there came a time when you came back to the house.
Correct.
But she had changed the locks.
Right.
The lease wasn't in your name.
Right.
So you broke into the house.
Right.
You can't do that, Mr. Wynn. Now, I'm not saying that Miss Austin didn't lose her temper. Miss Austin.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe you probably lost your temper a little bit. That be a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Ones I feel most sorry for are those 2 little children who are in the house, seeing the 2 adults that they supposedly look up to acting like a bunch of school children, fighting with each other, screaming, yelling, killing their pets. You should both feel terrible about that.
I do.
What? No, you didn't. If you did, then you
Not at that time I didn't, but, you know, once I sat down and thought about it, I did.
Can I see an estimate on the car, please?
I don't have the estimate.
Well, how am I supposed to determine how much it'll cost to fix the car?
Well, when I went to get the estimate done, the shop was already closed, the service department, so I wasn't able to get the estimate done.
So what does he owe you money for? Fish, for sure.
He took a lot of things from my apartment. I have that on the paper as well. He has not returned anything that he's taken.
Like what?
Jewelry, different.
What kind of jewelry?
I have a herringbone chain, a rope chain.
Did you take any jewelry from her house?
Yes.
Oh, it's not an answer.
Yes, I did.
Where is it?
Where is it? It's at my mom's house as of now.
All the jewelry is to be returned to her within 5 days.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm awarding you $250, which you're going to use to go out and refurbish a fish tank for the children. Yourself, get the children. You should write them a note of apology.
Well, I kind of planned on talking to them face to face and letting them know how much of, you know, apology I would like to give them.
5 days. I'll prepare an order. All the jewelry goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just feel like it got out of control that night, and it's something that shouldn't have happened at all.
Man, you'd thought we was at WWF wrestling.
The best way to handle it is just to have left it alone in the beginning.
It was just like a madman and a mad woman going at each other.
I'd like to get my life back on track.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bryce versus Cooper. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Twyla Bryce is suing her ex-roommate, mortgage processor Luann Cooper, for the return of property, unpaid rent, and assault, and for filing false charges with police.
Miss Bryce, tell me very, very quickly. You think that the defendant owes you some money. You were her roommate. You claim she had you evicted, kept some of your property. You want her to reimburse you for a whole bunch of things, a TV that she kept, some pain and suffering because she had you falsely arrested, a whole bunch of other stuff. She says she has none of your stuff, right?
No, that's not correct. She did not get arrested. I don't have any of her stuff.
You say you have none of her stuff.
None of her stuff.
Perfect.
She came out all her stuff.
Shh. So, I have other things to do.
Hi, how you doing? First of all, it's an honor to meet you. You have to bear with me.
Just tell me.
I just got over a cold. So
tell me what she owes you money for.
Back rent. When I first moved in with Cooper, we was going half and half. We were supposed to become roommates, $5.10 apiece. When I moved in with her, she did not tell me to the last minute that she had got fired from her job, and she didn't have a $300 towards the rent.
So she owes you $200 towards rent.
$210.
Okay, just a second. Let me deal with this. And what month was that in?
This was in July when I moved in with her.
Okay. Did you ever take $200 from her for rent?
Yes, I did, Your Honor, and I paid her back.
Okay.
As soon as I got a job, like a week later, I got a job and I paid her back. Cause see, she didn't have the money. She borrowed it from her sister.
Okay.
And I
so
had to
you
pay her
gave
sister back. I didn't pay her. I paid her sister back.
You paid her sister.
Yeah, because it was her money.
Perfect. You have your sister here? Did she give you back the money?
She gave me back $200 not for July.
Perfect. Good. She gave you back $200. What's next, Miss Bryce?
Okay. In August, Luann Cooper was fired again from another job. I had to put the whole rent, which was $1,085.
That's a lie. I did not get fired from my job, and she left in August.
Just a second.
October, excuse me.
Could we get to what we're talking? Could you be quiet, please? Because I'm not spending more than another 5 minutes on this case.
Excuse me,
Your Honor.
Listen! Your complaint talks about you getting evicted from the house, a false restraining order. You and your daughter were forced to leave the house, and that she kept your television, she kept a telephone, and a blanket belonging to your daughter.
And a pillow.
Doesn't say anything about a pillow here.
That's a lie, Your Honor. She came and got all her stuff. Her sister even took her.
If you say one more thing to me without my looking at you, then I'm going to grant her petition. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Say nothing until I look at your direction and ask you a question. Mm-hmm. We understand each other?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, tell me about the 4th of September when she had you evicted.
Okay, we had gave a party on me and her birthday. My birthday was on the 1st, hers was on the 2nd of September. Miss Cooper had been up previously almost a week.
That's a lie, that's a lie. We started partying on your birthday, so it was what, the 2nd? When
Miss Cooper, you didn't pay attention. Do you understand? If a court makes a statement, and if then I go back on it, everybody thinks the court system doesn't mean what it says. Now, did I tell you fairly, give you fair notice, that if you interrupt again, I'm going to grant her claim whether it is legitimate or not. Did I say that to you?
Yeah, you did.
And did you say I understood it?
Yeah.
And did you do it again? Did you do it
Your
again?
Honor, it's just that she's lying, and I just can't
Judgment
let her
for
lie.
the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
Right.
That's all.
Hallelujah! Thank you, Jesus. Sorry.
Now, this is case number 495 on the calendar in the matter of Thrall versus Salinas. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Mrs. Thrall, it is your claim that the defendant's little boys did some damage to your recreational vehicle, throwing some rocks at the
Yes,
vehicle.
ma'am, they did.
And the defendants say either they didn't do it or if they did, they didn't cause any damage. Two of you, up here. One sit, one stand. Who's older? Tell me your name.
Charles Taylor Salinas.
You're Charles. And you?
Spencer Mark Salinas.
Have you ever watched this courtroom before?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And you know that I don't care what you told your mother, and I don't care what you told your father, and I don't care what you told the police. When I ask you a question, I expect one thing, and that is what?
The truth.
Right. Now, who was throwing the rocks in the direction of the recreational vehicle? Raise your hand. Really? Who was throwing rocks at a light post? Who was throwing rocks at all? What were you throwing rocks at?
The telephone wire.
And where was the recreational vehicle parked?
Clear over to the left behind all these trees. You couldn't see it because there was all these bushes in front of us.
So it was behind the bushes, but in the same line as the pole that you were throwing the rocks at?
No.
Then how do you think that the vehicle got damaged with rocks?
I don't know.
And you? You don't know. Now, was it right after you were throwing these rocks that Mrs. Thrall came to your parents' house?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So you think that that's just a coincidence, huh? You think it was a couple of other people who were throwing rocks that hit the truck?
Yes.
Tell me who you think it was.
We don't know because
why?
Because we don't know them.
Did you see Mrs. Thrall outside when you were throwing the rocks?
No.
Did you see her?
No.
What made you stop throwing the rocks?
Our grandma called us in.
Mm-hmm. Are you nervous? You should be. Go back and stand with your parents. Okay, Mr. Thrall, let me hear what you have to tell me.
Well, I heard something hit my house. I went out back because the dogs were barking to check on the dogs, and something flew past my ear. Well, I checked on the dog. He wouldn't come out, and these things kept pelting my trailer really hard. And I thought, well, what the hell's going on? Excuse me. And I looked up, and these two boys were standing there, and they were giggling and laughing. I says, what do you think you're doing?
Did you see the two boys?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Are these the two boys you saw?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And I told them, I says, you better get inside. I'm coming over to talk to your parents. And they took off running. So it took me a little while to walk out of my backyard and around the block. And I got to their house and knocked on the door. And a man answered the door. And I says, your children were out back pelting my trailer with rocks. I says, what are they doing that for? He says, I don't know that they were. And then they started crying.
Is this the man that you saw?
Yes, ma'am.
What did Miss Thrall say to you when she rang your bell?
Yes, I was visiting my mother's home that night, Your Honor, and so when I opened the door, I expected it was someone coming to see her. I
don't care what you were expecting. What did you say?
Mrs. Thrall was very upset, yelling and screaming. I asked her, could I help her first, and she said, your boys were throwing rocks in my trailer. And I asked the boys to come to the door. My oldest son, Taylor, began to cry.
Why do you think he began to cry?
Because of the intimidation of Mrs. Thrall.
Oh, no. Get real. He wasn't crying because Mrs. Thrall was intimidating him. He was crying because he got caught.
Your Honor, if I may.
Sure.
I believe it was because he was intimidated by her.
I don't care what you believe, sir.
She said my son
That's why we have Littleton and Columbine, because parents don't want to look for things in a real way. Now, what would make you think that this lady, who doesn't look like she's heavily sedated or medicated, would come to your house and blame two little boys that looked like butter would melt in their mouth for throwing rocks at her RV at a time, sir, when your boys had been outside throwing rocks?
Your Honor, my boys were out in the back and they were throwing rocks at a telephone wire, and I believe that. As far as the damage to the trailer, I wasn't certain to that because
Just a minute, we're not talking, listen to me.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to the damage yet. We're talking about rocks hitting her trailer. You have two defenses. A, it wasn't them, and B, there was no damage. Correct?
Yes.
So, we are eliminating your first defense and theirs. The rocks that they threw hit her RV and almost hit her and scared her dog. So let's not even talk about the damage first. I would like to know what you said to your sons when they admitted to you that they were throwing rocks.
I told them, one, that that wasn't the right thing to do, but I asked them why were they throwing the rocks and if they hit the trailer. I didn't raise my boys to throw rocks and to damage people's property. So I asked them, similar to what you're doing today, questions.
So?
Were you out there throwing rocks? Yes. Did you hit the trailer? Okay, and they told me no, they did not hit the trailer. I asked them if they heard anything break, any damage, and they said no.
Okay. And so what did you do then?
All right, then I continued. Then I talked to Mrs. Thrall.
Forget Mrs.
Right.
Thrall. What did you do there? They're outside, they're throwing rocks. How were they punished?
Well, first of all, I talked to them. Okay, I wanted to get their story. I've told them we do not throw rocks at people's property. That night when Mrs. Thrall was there at the door, I even told them, boys, if you did this, this is wrong. Come up and apologize to her if this is what you did. Okay, and the boys sat there and they were crying. All right, well, Taylor was, and because she continued to tell us that he needed to be on drugs and therapy that night, Your Honor. That is what led the boys to start crying, was her insisting that my boys were vandals and that they had done their...
They were vandals, sir. They vandalized the property. You should have gone out and looked at the property.
I offered to, Your Honor.
So, did you look at a property?
No, she wouldn't let me go down there. I asked her if I could go down and examine the property, and I said, if my boys did any damage, I will be willing to take care of it. Please let me know. And I have a letter...
Just a second. Is that true?
No.
I didn't think so.
Your
Not
Honor.
from reading his answer. What happened when you went to the door? You got a little bit crazed when you went to the door.
I tried to stay as calm as I could. I went
But
to
you
the
weren't
door.
so calm.
Yeah, I rang the doorbell. He answered the door. I told him that 2 young boys on his property were throwing rocks at my property and had no business doing so. I suggested that maybe they needed to be in football, basketball, or hockey, something outdoor sports to get them away from this sort of thing. And I told him that there was damage done to my trailer and possibly to my dog because I couldn't get him out from underneath the trailer. And he just looked at me and said, yeah, right. He didn't offer to come look at my trailer. He never once implied it. I went home, called the police, had them come by. They took a police report. And
Can I see the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am. And they took pictures. I even have a picture outside my kitchen window as to what the property looked like. And they told the police officer that they were aiming at the pole, which is on my property. And I have the estimate for the damages done on the trailer. They start at $4,000 and going up for the internal damage of the property.
Just a minute. Police asked Spencer and Charles what happened. They told me they were throwing rocks at a power pole and they accidentally broke the window. Police are
Your
lying
Honor,
here?
There are 2 items in that report.
Are they lying in that line?
No.
So that the boys broke the window.
Your Honor, my boys were told that they were going to be taken to kid jail by the officer.
Oh, please.
Your Honor,
Oh, please,
my boys were threatened and told that they would go to kid jail for things and they could be put on...
Listen to me. You keep it making excuses for your children, and you're going to find as they grow older, because of what you did, they were able to sit there and lie like rugs.
Your
Look
Honor.
me square in the eye and say to me that they didn't do anything. And yet, when the police interviewed them immediately afterwards, they said that they were throwing rocks at the power pole and accidentally broke a window. And now you're saying to me that it was all because she intimidated them, the police intimidated them, I intimidated them. And what I'm telling you is they were able to get over on you and have your full support, so they were able to sit there and lie to me. And if you don't nip it in the bud, mister, you're going to spend a lot of time in court with these 2 angel-faced boys. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Good.
Completely.
Now, my question to you, Miss Thrall, is you had had difficulty prior to this. Was the kids throwing rocks at your RV?
Yes, ma'am, ever since I moved in.
Okay. And not always these boys?
No.
So it was just this time you caught these boys?
Right.
Okay, and the boys admit that they broke the window?
Right.
Okay, so we have the damage to the window. Good. Let me see your estimate for the damage to the window.
I had caught the boys a few times prior to that and filed police reports, but they've refused to do anything about it.
You mean these boys?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor.
boys?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, that
They
is not
tried
the
to talk
case.
me out of it, saying that the boys would be severely damaged if they happened to go to court and get reprimanded for it.
That's not the case.
The police department we had at the time, and their parents.
And I've since...
Just a minute. You've actually spoken to Mr. Salinas before?
Not him, his mother.
His mother?
Yes.
So his mother was taking care of the boys?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times prior to this incident was it these boys?
3 other times.
Okay, now
Your
let me
Honor,
see.
that's not the truth.
I don't know whether it's the truth or not. She says it is. You don't know. You weren't there. How much did you give her for the window that your boys broke?
Your Honor, I didn't give her anything. I offered to take care of it.
You never offered me a dime.
I don't think you ever did. I honestly don't believe you ever did.
Your Honor, I've also got, without knowing the exact make and model of the trailer, I did also get an estimate as well for the repair to the window.
And what did you get?
$88.28.
And how much is your estimate
window?
for the window?
Well, for the window, they damaged the outside of the RV as well as the inside from the water damage.
What water damage?
It has a nice little screen on the top of it. They pelted that real good and broke it, and the water got in there and damaged the inside of it. That's what some of those pictures show.
Let me explain something to you, madam. This is not a windfall for you. If there was water damage, you should have covered the window. Do you understand?
I did with a plastic
Good.
container.
Fine.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
So she had an accident with a jet ski with a boat that you also owned. So how could you sue her for any damages?
I know that she did not have permission to drive the jet ski.
Impossible. Didn't steal it. And you weren't there.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Deborah Thrall says 11-year-old Taylor Salinas and his brother, 9-year-old Spencer, damaged her RV by pelting it with rocks.
How old is this RV?
It's a 69 Beauvais.
Okay.
Bull Zero.
It's made out of solid metal.
It's 1969 RV. When was the last time you used it?
Last year.
Well, the date of this report was July 2001.
Yes.
So last year was 2002, so you used it in 2002.
I used it for a short time, for about a week.
Fine. Did you have the window fixed?
No, ma'am. They told me they had to special order it.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Your Honor.
Mr. Rawl, let me explain something to you. I don't like tall tales no matter who tells them. I don't deal as much with it with adults because you're fully cooked. You're going to tell tall tales. I'm going to call them what they are. They're lies. Don't lie to me about any question that I ask you. If you lie to me, believe me, it doesn't serve you well.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not going to get anything close to what you're looking for.
All the damage that was done to that trailer was done by those boys.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's true. I think that it's probably an attractive nuisance.
May I show you some other pictures that I've taken, Your Honor?
Sure.
That show the exact state of the trailer. Ms. Thrall has also been in trouble with the Parma Police for public nuisance in the garbage in the backyard. They've been asking her to clean it up.
Mr. Salinas, I'm interested in the damage that your sons did to her property. Okay. Stop making excuses and telling me that she leaves garbage out there when she shouldn't. That is nonsense. You want to show me pictures of the trailer?
Certainly.
I'll be happy to see them.
Excuse me, how'd you get on my property?
I wasn't on your
property.
property.
Just a second. Don't speak to him.
Sorry.
Along with that, Your Honor, I did approach 3 different RV dealers in town. I didn't know the exact make
There's
and
no
model.
question before you, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify the pictures for you.
Well, it's clear to me this is
If you
not
will-
worth a whole bunch of money.
If you will, the gas tanks on it and the tires, Your Honor, have been flat since it moved there. So I don't know how it could have been used.
Listen to me.
Your Honor.
I don't believe that the whole thing is worth more than a couple $100. She says to the police, she told me that the dents and windows cost approximately $200. That's what she told the police in July of 2001. Now she's suing for $4,000. I mean, she must be smoking something. She's going to get what she's going to get is $200, which is closer to the figure, because that's what she told the police. But that's what they're responsible for, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think she probably got $200 too much, and she's making a history of doing these kinds of things.
He won't hold his kids accountable. They did all that damage to my trailer, and it was in perfect condition until they made it an object for abuse.
And the lesson has been learned. Throwing rocks can cause trouble. Malicious vandalism? No, and not intentional.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Searle versus Rourke. Step forward, please.
Retired police officer Jeffrey Searle is suing his daughter's former friend, 19-year-old student Sarah Rourke, for the cost to fix his boat and his jet ski.
Mr. Searle, do you have any witnesses here with you today?
No, Your Honor, I do not.
I ask you that question for a very good reason. According to what I've read, sir, you purchased a jet ski for your stepdaughter?
That's correct.
And it was delivered to a house that you have on the lake. And at the time, your stepdaughter was there, your wife was there, the defendant was there, a couple of other people. And then you left, that's what you told me in here, in order to go to take the person who had delivered the jet ski back to their lair, wherever they were going. And when you came back to the lake, you heard that the defendant had been on the jet ski, had an accident, and the jet ski was damaged. Is that right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
But you have no witnesses, sir, to testify as to what happened.
That's correct, Your Honor.
How do you plan to prove your case of negligence?
I do have an accident report from the investigating agency.
That doesn't help me. You have to come into court being prepared to prove your case. The defendant's position is she had an accident with this jet ski. She had your stepdaughter's permission to drive it, correct? Mm-hmm. Nobody's alleging that she stole it. Your wife was there. You weren't there, but your wife was certainly there and did nothing to prevent her from taking the jet ski. She had an accident, and the accident was with another vehicle. Is that right?
Yes.
What other kind of vehicle?
It was a boat.
And who owned the boat?
Jeff.
So she had an accident with a jet ski with a boat that you also owned. Who said it wasn't the boat's fault?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So how could you sue her for any damages?
I know that I am aware that she did not have permission to drive the jet ski.
Impossible. She didn't steal it. And you weren't there. And I guarantee you, if your stepdaughter was there and her mother was there... By the way, who was the first person to drive the jet ski?
Kelly.
Kelly?
Yes.
The person who was given the jet ski as a gift?
Right.
And did you drive it second?
Yes.
When Kelly drove the jet ski, she went around the lake a couple of times?
Yes.
And then did she come back to the dock?
I'm not sure.
Well, something happened.
From what I was told,
I don't want you to tell me what you were told. She got on the jet ski. There's no question in my mind that she did not steal the jet ski. That what happened there was a whole bunch of people around. Your stepdaughter drove the jet ski. Then she said, "Can I drive it next?" And you're claiming that you didn't have real permission because your stepdaughter is underage. Is that right?
Well, partially. Also, my wife did indicate to her to return to the dock that she was not allowed to make that change in the water, at which point they ignored that and drove off.
You can't tell me that, sir. Your wife's not here.
That is correct, Your Honor.
So you have no case. Goodbye.
Case number 192 on the calendar in the matter of White versus Vargas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Mr. White, according to your complaint, sir, the defendant is a neighbor of yours.
Yes.
And he shot your dog.
Yes, he did.
Shh. The dog survived.
Yes.
And still have the dog, but you had a lot of vet bills.
Right.
And you wanted him also to pay for the psychological damage that was caused to you and your family as a result of this shooting.
Yes.
Where was your dog when he shot the dog?
My dog was in his front yard when he was shot.
And where were you?
I was out of town. I was on vacation.
And who was with the dog at the time that he shot the dog that was in his front yard?
No, when the dog had gotten out of the backyard to the fence.
And what kind of little dog was this?
He's not a little dog. He's a Rottweiler.
A Rottweiler?
Yes.
And the Rottweiler, I mean, I know a little bit about dogs. A Rottweiler weighs several hundred pounds.
Yes.
Right?
Right, 100, yes.
Well, what was your dog doing in his front yard?
I'm not sure what he was doing, but he was just cutting through, I believe, heading back down the street like he does occasionally.
That's outrageous, sir. What is your 100-and-some-odd-pound dog doing out unattended by a member of your family who's able to control the dog? What if somebody's afraid of dogs?
Well, the dog, it's kind of hard and difficult to keep the dog in the yard sometimes, but when the dog does get out.
Never! It's never too hard to keep a big dog in your own property. In the house, in the yard, fenced in, tied up, or at all times under your control. I read this and it sounded to me as if you're the victim. You're not the victim. Your dog is the victim of your negligence. Is this your wife?
No, it's my neighbor.
Who else lives in your home?
No one.
Just you?
Yes.
When you went out that day, where did you leave your dog?
In the house.
Well, then how'd the dog get out of the house?
Well, I had a carpenter there working on the house who had gone out to get some wood. The dog had come outside to go to the bathroom. He'd carried the wood back into the house and then heard the shot.
This is what your carpenter is telling you.
Yes, this is what I was
But your dog's gotten out before.
Yes, he has.
Right. Well, that's what I gather. And you're here as a neighbor to tell me it's a sweet, loving, friendly dog that you're not afraid of. Is that right?
Correct.
I don't care. Some little 5-year-old might be afraid of a 150-pound Rottweiler that comes walking up to them, even if it's the friendliest dog in town. So, that being the case, let me get to Mr. Vargas over here. Mr. Vargas, I gather that initially you denied that you shot the dog, but then you said to him, yeah, I shot your dog. Your dog was in my front yard, and my child was out there. Was your child outside?
Yes, she was.
How old is your child?
She's 13.
This your child?
Yes.
You have a picture of the dog?
Yes, I do.
Sure, let me see it. Looks like an absolutely lovely, lovely dog. For you to keep in your house, under your control, not to think it's just such a wonderful dog, everybody's going to love it.
Well, I don't feel it that way. I know the dog looks like it could be, you know, very dangerous, but he's not by any means. As a matter of fact, my neighbors all know the dog very well because, like I said, the dog's kind of he's been raised around humans. He's never been with other dogs. He thinks he's human himself. Everybody who comes over, you know, he meets him at the front door to be petted. He's a loving dog. All the neighbors love him, of course. Like I said, he's never had any incident before where he's caused any damage to anyone or even threatened anyone.
Listen, Mr. White, this dog is doing what this dog has been trained to do, which is he's a block dog. He feels as if he has sort of control to go outside if he wants to. People adore him. They may give him a treat. Your neighbor adores him, which is all very nice. But this is a very large animal. This isn't a Chihuahua that can't cause substantial damage. If somebody is walking in a baby carriage and for some reason this dog gets spooked by something, and even if the dog doesn't go over and try to hurt them, they can start running, the baby carriage can tip over, the baby can become injured through no fault of the dog's. Through your fault.
Well,
that's your fault.
But isn't that the reason to have dog pounds and a dog catcher in case your dog does get out, or a dog registry for lost dogs?
What if you think that this dog, because you don't know the dog, all you see is this huge dog on your lawn.
Well, wait a second.
Your daughter is screaming outside. Is that what was happening? Step up. Now you tell me. What happened when you saw the dog?
When I saw the dog, it was barking at me and showing its teeth, like in an angry way.
Were you frightened?
Yes.
Where were you standing?
In my driveway.
And where was the dog?
At the end of the driveway.
And what happened next?
I called my dad's name, and he had gone and get his gun, and he took care of it.
And he shot the dog? Didn't kill it? No.
Right.
That's what pounds are for.
Well, like I said...
Go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Say I was inside the house. I was looking out our bay window and looked across the street. They were outside.
Who's they?
Caesar, the kids, the whole
Kids?
family. Right.
Yes?
Didn't see the dog. All I seen was him standing at his garage. Two sounds that sounded like a shotgun, but it was getting close to 4th of July, so I thought maybe it was firecrackers. Ran back to the back door and opened up the garage door, and that's when I seen the puffs of smoke coming from his garage. But like I said, I did not know at that point in time the dog had been shot.
Just a minute. So you saw his daughter outside?
Yes, but the dog wasn't barking and they weren't screaming.
Listen, how long have you been neighbors?
3 years.
Have you ever seen the dog out before?
Yes.
Did you ever shoot the dog before?
No.
Did you ever say anything to him about the dog before?
No.
But the dog has been out before.
Right.
And it's true, over the last 3 years, you've not had a problem with him. Is that right?
No, I haven't had a problem at all with him, except for the fact that a couple weeks prior to this, I'd been riding my motocross bike in some trails there in my neighborhood. While bringing the bike back home, I passed his wife on the sidewalk. She was walking down the sidewalk with a stroller, and she hollered something at me like, slow down, and I went on by her and went on home with the bike. And maybe 20, 30 minutes later, the police showed up at my house and said that they had had a report saying that I was riding the bike in their yard. I told them at that time that I wasn't riding the bike in anybody's yard. I'd taken it down to the trails and back. And so,
were you going too fast, sir?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't believe so, no. It's allowed.
Why do you think, after 3 years of no problem, all of a sudden you would have a problem with them? If I'm a good neighbor and if I'm driving a motorcycle and his wife is walking with a baby in a baby carriage.
Right.
First of all, you don't have a Rottweiler roaming around in a neighborhood where there are babies in baby carriages. Period.
Right.
End of discussion.
My dog doesn't roam the neighborhood.
Yes, your dog gets out and has
right.
gotten
He has
out
broken
before.
out of the fence, like all dogs get out of their fence.
No, sir. You say that that's okay. It's not okay.
Well, I don't agree that it's okay, and I do my best.
It's not okay.
I do my best to keep the dog in the
But
fence.
your best isn't good enough.
Like I said,
Your best, Mr. White, isn't good enough.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you're driving a motorcycle and you pass a woman and she says to you, hey, slow down, and what you said is you just kept on going.
Well, yes.
No, just a minute. That's what you said.
Yes,
oh,
I
yeah,
did.
that's what I did. I just kept on going. That to me is rude. Rude!
And later today,
I agreed to loan him the money to keep him out of jail.
Your Honor, I worked on her computer at least 4 times.
So what? You're hustling me, sir.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Philip White says neighbor Cesar Vargas shot his Rottweiler Bones. Cesar says Bones was threatening his daughter.
If you're going out and you have carpenters in your house that you know are going to be taking wood in and taking wood out, and you're not going to be there all day, you take your dog to a kennel. And you say, I want to make sure my dog doesn't get out because it's dangerous for my dog to be out in the street. It could cause a car accident. So I'm going to take my dog to the kennel for the day because I'm not around to supervise this 150-pound dog. That's what you do.
Well, if the man had shot my dog to defend his family, I would have thought that was one thing.
That's what he says he did.
That's what he says he did. And why then he told me that he didn't do it? Why did he deny it?
Because he didn't want to get into an
When the police
argument
asked him
with
why
you.
he shot the dog, he denied it to them also.
Why do you think he shot your dog?
I think he shot my dog because he, out of vindication, or maybe possibly shooting the wrong dog. Like I said, my dog's real fat popular. My dog lived on the
Oi,
roof of my
Mr.
house.
White, you ain't going to get it, sir. Listen to me.
I
You
know.
know why you're not going to get it? You're not going to get it for two reasons. First of all, if you're driving a motorcycle and you pass a woman who's walking with a baby carriage and she says to you, hey, slow down,
Right.
and that's your neighbor, and what you said is you just kept on going.
Well, yes.
No, just a minute. That's what you said.
Yes,
oh,
I
yes,
did.
that's what I did. I just kept on going. That to me is rude. Rude! Because you stop the motorcycle and you say to your neighbor, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was going too fast. I'm sorry if I frighten you. That's what you say to a neighbor. You don't say, psh.
Well,
I
obviously,
keep-
my neighbor and I aren't that close, so I mean, we
I don't care whether you're close or not.
My neighbor's there until the police
What
came.
difference is it if it's your neighbor or not? If a woman walking with a baby carriage says to you that you're driving too fast, then you stop and you say, I'm sorry.
I
You
did
seem
put
to
the
think
motorcycle-
everything you do is okay.
No.
Pay the vet bill. It's your responsibility. And go and say, I'm sorry to your dog.
Pay the
Goodbye.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
I was just frightened for my child.
I don't believe the time that the dog was threatening anybody.
I grabbed my shotgun.
The dog avoids people. He's never attacked or done anything that played with children.
I wasn't aiming. I just shot toward him.
I feel very unfair for the dog.
I just hope it doesn't happen again and none of my brothers and sisters get hurt.
And now the next case.
All parties on Cochran versus Matthews. Step forward, please.
Retired computer specialist Loretta Cochran is suing her former friend, computer technician Chris Matthews, for an unpaid loan for child support. Chris says he worked off the debt.
Miss Cochran, you claim a loan to the defendant in the amount of $5,000. You claim that you have given him certain credits. He owes you slightly less than $5,000 on the loan. Mr. Matthews says that you had an agreement, and the agreement was that it was a barter arrangement, that you gave him $5,000, and he agreed to do some work for you and half of the civilized world in exchange for the money that he needed to pay back child support. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know him?
I know him from the local flea market at home. He ran a computer shop.
And you?
I ran a booth there selling Beanie Babies, etc.
Tell me about this loan, Miss Cochran.
Well, Chris needed to pay us back child support.
How did you find that out?
Well, he was talking about it at his shop where other people were. He was working on my personal computer, and he was talking about how he needed to raise the money to get to pay his child support. And I agreed to loan him the money to keep him out of jail.
When you say you agreed to loan him the money, either he asked you for the money or you volunteered.
No, he asked for the money.
What did he say? That's what I want to know.
Oh, gee. He wanted some help on paying the back child support.
What prompted you to give him such a large sum of money?
Well, he really promised to pay it back within...
Tell me what he said,
He
Ms.
said
Cochran. You're
that he
missing.
was getting a $4,000 income tax refund and that he would be able to pay me back within 90 days. So I thought for a short time, yes, I can do this.
He was probably concerned that he was going to go to jail unless he paid.
Yes.
Did he say that to you?
Oh, yes.
Well, I want you to tell me what he said, Ms.
Well,
Cochran.
he said he was going to have to go to jail if he didn't raise the money by February the 6th. He had to go to court. And so we went to the bank on January the 27th, I think, and got the money and gave him a cashier's check so he could pay the bill.
So he said that he would pay you back when he got his income tax refund, which would have been $4,000, and then make up the rest.
Yes.
Did he pay you anything?
He paid me nothing.
When did you first ask him for the money?
after he went to court and, you know, had some time had passed by, and I said, let's talk about this. And he would tell me to come over to the flea market, come over to the shop. He would have some money. I'd go over. He wouldn't have any money. Weeks and months went by. He moved his business and went into business with some other guys. And he paid everybody else, but he won't pay me.
All right, Mr. Matthews, now I'll hear you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I don't dispute the fact that I borrowed the money from her. We had made an agreement that I would pay the money back, and then business had dropped, and I came back to her and I said, I don't have the money. I don't know when I'll have it. I'll pay you. She made the agreement that I could work it off on working on her computers, friends' computers.
Tell me about that,
And
Mr.
I guess
Matthews.
they would reimburse her that way.
Tell me about that, sir. Tell me about this new agreement. When was it? Where were you when you made this
It was about
new...
March, and it was at her home.
What were you doing at her home?
Working on her computer.
Okay. Go ahead.
And she had said, hey, you know, you could do this kind of work. We can knock it off the bill, you know, until you can get straight and whatnot.
Yeah, for a couple of hundred.
Go ahead.
And I kept doing this work and...
Doing what work?
On the computers.
Well, how many computers
I
did you
worked
work
on her computer twice at the shop, twice at her home. I worked on her lawn keeper's computer. I just worked on another friend of hers' computer. I repeatedly worked on everything.
No, not repeatedly. You worked on her computer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And she's giving you certain credit for working on her computer because she says in her complaint, I even credited him $164 because he did some work on my computer.
Your Honor, I worked on her computer at least 4 times.
So what? She kept you out of jail. How much do you think you'd be charged in interest on a $5,000 loan?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. You're
No,
not
ma'am.
very good in math, just on computers?
Just, I don't know what the interest rate you're speaking of.
Any
speaking
interest
9%,
rate, sir.
15%, 20%?
Let's try 10%.
Okay. 10% would be right at $500.
So forget about her computer that you worked on. How many friends' computers did you work on under this arrangement that you claim you had with her?
2.
And who were those people?
One was her lawn keeper and one was a personal friend of hers.
And you accepted no money from these people?
From one of them I did.
2 of them. How much? Just a second. Which one did you accept money from?
The last one that I worked on it 8 hours and I only charged her for 4 hours of labor.
So what? So forget about that one. You're hustling me, sir. Now, was that the lawn keeper or was that a friend?
That was the friend.
When did you work on the lawn keeper's computer?
Sometime in March.
And how many hours did you spend on that?
On the lawn keeper, 6 hours.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with the plaintiff with regard to her benefiting from your working on her lawn keeper's computer.
She said that she would then take it out and trade with her lawn keeper as far as taking care of her lawn.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, I paid for the computer. I paid cash.
What do you mean you paid cash for the computer?
When he fixed this computer for a friend of mine.
We're talking about the lawn
No,
keeper.
ma'am.
Well, the lawn keeper is a friend.
What difference does it make? It's not $5,000 we're talking about here, Mr. Matthews. You have an obligation. Your obligation is to pay child support. How many children do you have that's covered by this child support order?
1.
And what's your child support order?
It's $560 a month.
So in order for you to have amassed $5,000 worth of arrears, you didn't pay for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
So you shun that responsibility. This lady, a total stranger to you, says, I will loan you the money because you asked her for it. That's what you just told me. You just told me that you borrowed the money from her. Borrowed. She's not your wife, is she?
No, ma'am.
She's not your sister?
No, ma'am.
She's not your cousin?
No, ma'am.
She's not your aunt?
No, ma'am.
She's not your best friend?
No, ma'am.
So she's a stranger to you. Stranger. She took care of your responsibility for your child to pay child support. Then you tell her, I don't have any money. Sorry, I thought I'd have money. I don't have money. That's what you told the mother of your child, too. I'm sorry. What do you want me to shoot me? I don't have money. Collect cans.
Your Honor, everything
Now listen to me. Collect cans. Go out, collect cans, 5 cents a piece, collect bottles, put them in, then you have money. Listen to me, sir. She's not supposed to pay your child support. You're supposed to pay your child support.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So she took the money out of the bank, which cost her interest. According to my calculations, you owe her at least $5,000 because that's how much she lost in interest. You want to say anything else to me, Mr. Matthews? And are you sure you want to say something else to me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to hear you, sir.
We made this agreement on several occasions that I would do this work for her.
But you didn't.
I've calculated work that I have done for her on 4 different occasions, and I only got $160 worth of credit off of the bill.
So what? She kept you out of jail. How long were you going to go to jail for, Mr. Matthews?
12 months.
You figure that maybe your life is worth $100 a month? Not to some people, maybe, but to you. Is it worth $100 a month?
Yes, ma'am.
$1,200? She kept you out of jail for 12 months. $1,200. Did you do more than $1,200 worth of work on her computer?
Between friends and...
Her computer?
No, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
This is case number 330 on the calendar in the matter of Davis versus Brown.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Ms. Davis, according to the complaint that I've read, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time. It is your claim that when you moved in together, you put down a substantial amount of money, almost, I think, $4,000. You call it a down payment on the house. You say that Mr. Brown subsequently kicked you out of the house and you want that money back. You also said that he's used a video card where you rent videos from a store without your permission. It belonged to you. He didn't return the videos, and you now have a very extensive bill from that store. Mr. Brown says you never gave him a dime, and he's got a counterclaim for bills that he claims you owe him, and he says you've been bothering him that he doesn't like, so he wants you to pay for his trouble. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Ms. Davis, when did you move in with the defendant?
Your Honor, I would like to tell you how my ex-boyfriend did me wrong. He moved in with me in November of 2000.
But listen to my question. When did you move in together in a place where you claim you put money down?
In June of 2001.
That's wrong.
Shh. Now listen, I'm going to get to you. So don't interrupt her. We do things in a very orderly way here. It's the only way that I can function. Otherwise, I become frustrated, and Bird doesn't like it when I get frustrated. When did you move in together? June of 2001? Very good. And was this a house or an apartment?
It was a mobile home.
Was it a rental?
No, ma'am.
He bought it?
Process of buying, yes, ma'am.
And you say you gave him how much money?
It was $4,366.
And where did you get that money from?
I traded my mobile home in on the one that he purchased.
Okay. Do you have any evidence of that transaction? All right, sir. I seem to have some evidence would tend to indicate, Mr. Brown, that she did not, in fact, give you any money towards the purpose of your mobile home.
Exactly. She did not.
Listen to me carefully, sir. I have evidence that she did not give you any money towards the purchase of your mobile home. But I have evidence here that she traded in her mobile home
no, ma'am.
as a partial down payment for a mobile home that went into your name.
No, not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all. What has transpired was a mobile home that was sold from her cousin to me for $500, which we used as a trade-in.
Yeah, but they gave you credit for $4,366 as a down payment credit.
That was the value of the mobile home. I'm buying something for $500 and trading in for another amount. That's just like a good business transaction.
Your Honor,
Does it make sense? It's a profitable business transaction. If you can buy a car for $200 and sell it for $2,000, that's a smart buy. So that's exactly what I did. I took a smart buy and used it to advance in a better home for me and my children.
Something doesn't sound right, sir.
It doesn't sound
Does it sound right to you? He buys it for $500 from her cousin and then uses it, and they give him a down payment credit of $4,366.
I also gave in a $2,500 cash deposit as well.
On or about June 26, 2001, traded in her 1964 Windsor mobile home as a down payment on a 1998 Horton manufactured home.
Right.
This 1998 Horton manufactured was being purchased by David R. Brown. We gave Miss $4,366 on a down payment credit on the 1998 Horton.
Yes. Now, where's her name? Is that on any of the transaction?
Show that to him.
Your Honor, the reason why my name is not on there because the title was never changed over into my name, but I have a receipt where I purchased the mobile home before I met him.
It's for a different mobile home she's speaking of. And we never use that mobile home as a trade-in. This right here is sufficient. This right here is sufficient. And her name is not on there in that transaction because she has no involvement in the transaction.
I never said my name was on the mobile home, Your Honor.
She gave me these monies in her mobile home, and her name is not on anything. Does that make any sense?
That is my cousin.
Her cousin.
Ah. So they gave Miss $4,366 for the down payment.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Forget it. I don't look into that. Your name was not on the title to that mobile home?
No, ma'am.
All right,
at
then
the
forget
time
it.
I did not have a job, but I have a receipt where I bought the mobile home from Miss.
Show me.
Do you have the receipt?
You mean
up
this?
there?
$500?
Yes, and I also have this right here.
You have this? Is this what you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
That's nothing. That's nothing. That's something that you buy in a grocery store.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She won't leave me alone. We broke up, let it go. Guess she's steady looking for a payout for something she knows she's not owed to.
Mr. Brown, I believe you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Morticia Davis says ex-boyfriend David Brown owes her for the down payment on a mobile home and unpaid video rentals. David says her lawsuit is bogus.
Now, what about this video card?
When I got evicted off the mobile home, he used my Blockbuster
When did he evict
card.
you from the mobile home?
May. She moved out of the home before the eviction took place. So therefore,
What do you mean there was an eviction? Had you gone to court to evict her?
I went to court to evict her.
Why is that?
Because there was South Carolina state law. Once someone established residence in your home, in order for them to move out against their will, you have to evict them out.
All right, so the relationship wasn't going well, I assume.
It's downhill from...
Do you have children together?
No, we do not, thank God.
Perfect. Okay, so what about this video card?
Well, when he got his new girlfriend evicted me, I got some bills in the mail, which he used my card illegally at 3 different Blockbusters, never took the videos back.
Show me. You were evicted in May, is that right? Yes. Well, this is March of 2002.
Thank you.
This is March of 2002.
That's when he used
This
the
is
card,
March
Your
of
Honor.
2002.
And we both
This
reside.
is, this is March of 2002, and this is March of 2002. So this is
After I got evicted, that's when I got the bills in the mail, which he had used them.
No.
Well, listen to me. Miss Davis, how do what? You lived together in March of 2002. You were
He
sharing
was
a
not
home.
there in March,
Quiet.
Your Honor. He was not there. He lived with his new girlfriend until I got evicted.
Lies.
He was
Listen
not
to
there.
me.
Lie.
You kind of,
She's lying, Your Honor.
I don't want to say it again. It doesn't appear as if you're doing badly in this lawsuit so far. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
But what can happen is you can lose if you open your mouth again. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
You have any of these movies home, sir?
No, I do not.
He's not going to admit
Do you know where they are?
The last was left in the home that she was residing in. Now, what she did with them after that, I don't know.
Your Honor, that's not true.
I haven't been back to the house. At the time, I was out the house from late part of March all the way up until April, May.
Now he's
back in May.
Don't interrupt him.
Back into May.
All right, you have no case, Miss Davis. That's you. Do you want to get to your counsel claim? Mr. Brown.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You said she owes you bills.
Yes, ma'am.
What does she owe you bills for?
For rent, electric bill.
She doesn't owe you for rent. You weren't anticipating any rent from her.
I loaned her a few $100s for a couple of car note payments.
Yeah, go ahead. What else?
And
Chalk it up to experience. What else?
harassment.
Well, I have a feeling that that's true, that she's been harassing you.
And she just don't.
I have a feeling that that's probably true. So you want to tell me about the harassment?
I mean, she caused problems with me at work. She caused problems with me and my children. I'm a single parent of 2 children. Today is my son's birthday. I should be home with him instead of her in this courtroom. But Ms. Davis, again, want to file a lawsuit that she know she have no bearing to hold on. So therefore, it's just constantly, she won't leave me alone. We broke up, let it go. But yes, she's steady looking for a payout for something she knows she's not owed to.
I believe you. I believe that she's has made it her mission at this portion in her life to make your life miserable. That's what I believe. Put your hand down.
Judge,
Why can't you just say it didn't work out, period, end of discussion? While you were living together for that year, where were you working?
Interim health care.
Okay.
And I took care of 4 kids.
What did you do with your money?
I paid bills.
What bills?
I have light bills, water bills, phone bills.
Mm-hmm. He paid the rent?
Yes, that's all he paid was the rent and the land payment.
What about the food?
I got that.
No.
Really?
I was on food stamps, Your Honor.
Was not. She was not. And as far as electric bills and bills, those bills are in my name. And then she couldn't pay those bills. That's why I'm here now about the electric bill and bills that she has now.
Your Honor, I have these bills. Yes, they was in his name, but I paid them.
Show me.
After the fact that I left the house and I had these utilities cut off because she refused to pay them.
You mean
running them up in my
after
name.
you left in March?
After I left in March. She's running them up in my name. Therefore, I had these bills.
Your
These
Honor, that's
utilities
not true.
disconnected.
Yeah, this is April. I want to see anything before that, madam, before you were in the house by yourself. You have proof that you paid any bills?
I paid all my bills, Your Honor.
Listen to what I'm saying.
No, Your
to
Honor,
you.
that is all I have.
Right. That I can understand.
And
He
Mr.
moved
Brown
out-
had those bills in his name because he moved up there before I did. That's why they was in
Pay
his name.
careful attention to me.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you have a checking account?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
So all you have to do was to bring to court today, since you knew that he was counterclaiming for bills.
Your Honor, I didn't
proof,
know.
Proof? What do you mean you didn't know?
I didn't know he was countersuing me.
Really? When did you file your counterclaim, sir?
Monday.
When did you serve her?
He haven't.
Oh, then it's dismissed. Your counterclaim's dismissed. But not only is your counterclaim dismissed, Mr. Brown, but so is your lawsuit. And I'm going to make this suggestion to you. Sometimes things don't work out. How old are you?
I'm 24.
You have children?
I have 2. I'm a single parent.
Put a period, this is over, and devote all of your energies to working and your 2 children. Leave him alone. He doesn't owe you any money.
I
Goodbye.
don't harass him, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He jumped on me twice, and the mobile home was mine, which I didn't have the title with me.
Many a times she had me arrested for domestic criminal violence, something that I didn't do.
He's not going to do anything without being in the courtroom because he thinks he can get away with a lot of stuff.
She came in here, Judge Judy seen between the lies and what she was trying to tell, didn't get nothing. Justice was served for the first time.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robinson versus Bradford. Step forward, please.
Psychotherapist Cliff Robinson is suing his former friend, lab technician Angela Bradford, for the cost to repair his car window. Angela is countersuing also for the cost of a car window.
Mr. Robinson, it is your claim that the defendant's son broke a window in your car, that the defendant, who was a friend of yours, agreed to fix it and did not pay you the money that it cost you to fix this rear window. Was it a rear window of your car?
Rear quarter panel, yes.
Ms. Bradford says, I think she's saying that she had initially agreed to pay for the window. Is that right?
That is correct.
But later, your son broke one of her windows in her car, and you should pay for that window. Is that your defense?
It is.
So let's make this as simple as we can, because Bird knows that I like to keep things simple. How much was the window in your car, Mr. Robinson?
The window itself, Your Honor, came to $972.29.
Let me see.
I have pictures and the estimate.
Well, I'm just curious because in here you say that my window cost $800 to replace, sir.
That's with the labor and what it cost to.
What did it cost you?
$972, whatever the difference was.
How did you pay for this?
Cash.
No. Not even sure about this bill. What kind of window was this?
It's a rear quarter panel window in the Eddie Bauer Expedition.
Oh, so it's a big window.
It's a big window.
Okay. Now, the only question that I have is whether or not you are in any way responsible for damage that she alleges your son did to her window. So, Ms. Bradford, I read your answer and I read your cross-complaint. And it appeared to me that you two were friends.
Correct.
How many children do you have?
I have 4.
And there came a time when, after this incident involving his car, He brought his kids over to your house to play.
Correct.
And asked you if you would watch his kids for a while.
For 15 minutes, which turned into an hour and a half.
Whatever. You agreed to take care of his children. And it was while you were in charge of his children that your car window was broken.
Correct.
Should have taken care of him better. Do you understand?
I hear exactly what you're saying, Renee.
Because it was your job to supervise the children, because you had assumed that responsibility when he left his kids there. Therefore, if something happened to your car as a result of a ball being thrown, that's your problem, not his. It's a lot of money. Do you have any insurance, sir?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Well, what's your deductible?
$1,000.
Do you have any proof that you have a $1,000 deductible?
I didn't bring any insurance with the information.
Why is that?
I didn't think it was relevant.
Well, it is relevant, sir. It's relevant how much out-of-pocket you had. Are you telling me that you actually paid Collins Auto Glass $972 in
That's
cash?
correct.
Let's give them a call and find out. You know these people?
No, I don't.
They were just people you chose randomly?
That's correct.
Okay. In Seattle, Washington, for Collins Auto Glass. So there is no Collins Auto Glass in Seattle. Mr. Robinson, sir, is this Collins Auto Glass in Seattle?
Yes, it is.
Well, they don't have a listing for him in Seattle, sir.
Well, I know
They don't have a listing for him in Seattle, Washington. There is a phone number on here, sir. 206 number? There is a phone number here. It's your phone number. The only phone number that appears on this is your phone number.
Yeah, my information is on there, and then in the... I don't know.
Show it to him.
Yeah, that's my telephone number.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, no. I don't.
Collins Auto Glass doesn't have a phone number for their business. They also don't know how to spell residential.
Well, I know in June, when I got it fixed, there was a Collins Auto Glass. I got it out of the Yellow Pages.
Well, it must have been their last job, Mr. Robinson, because they closed down. They're not there anymore. Sort of interesting. But I'm holding you to what your complaint says, or your sworn complaint says it was $800 to replace. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. On your counterclaim, Ms. Bradford, I've already explained to you the children were under your supervision when your car window got broken, so if you weren't supervising them adequately, I can't fault him for that. That's all.
Now, this is case number 482 on the calendar in the matter of Simon versus Ream. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Simons, a relatively simple case. You want the engagement ring back. Is that right?
Yes, please.
And Ms. Ream, I've read your answer, and it's sort of like one from column A, one from column B. You have the following defenses, according to what I read. Number one, it wasn't an engagement ring because you never said yes.
Yes.
If you don't buy that, it was an engagement ring, but he told you you should keep it even if you didn't get married, correct?
Yes.
And number three, in case you don't buy those two, it was an engagement ring. There was no deal for me to keep it. I would have given it back, but it got stolen.
Yes, ma'am.
So you don't have it anymore.
No, ma'am.
Is that right? When did you give her the ring?
I think it was May of 2001.
And how long had you known her?
I met her in November. I knew her approximately 6 months and gave her the ring.
Okay, what kind of a ring was it?
It was an engagement ring.
Can I see the receipt for it?
I have the receipt. Plus, Your Honor, at the time, I had just moved, and I didn't have the receipt for the second half of the ring, but I've found that, and I've got that. So here are those two receipts.
What do you mean the second half of the ring?
You know, the band that goes, connects as one.
Oh, you mean the wedding bands?
Yeah,
the
yes.
set.
Yes, ma'am, yes. And that's the other half that I still have, which does mean no good.
Okay, where is this? Did you give her both of these rings?
No.
You have one?
I have one, yes.
Okay, so it's $969.75.
Yes, Judge, yes.
Okay. So you gave it to her in May, and you broke up when?
Around July, things started falling apart.
July of?
2001.
2001. When did you ask for the ring back?
Around August, I believe, the end of July.
What'd she tell you?
She agreed. We both agreed that it wasn't going to work out, and I went to pick up the ring. She had told me that she let some carpet cleaning people into her house, and she was afraid to be alone with these men. So she left, and when I got there, she went to get the ring, it was gone. It's funny because there was lots of jewelry, diamonds, everything, but they only took mine, my little ring. And I couldn't understand that. That didn't make sense to me.
Okay, just a second. So you broke up in July, and it was a month later that you went over to get the ring.
Correct.
But you had asked for it when?
Probably the end of July.
Okay, and she said come over in August.
Yes. Well, she kept saying it might work, I hope it works, it might work, it may not work. So we tried, and it wasn't going anywhere.
Okay. Now I'll hear you.
Like it said, I lost my husband prior to that, and I was very vulnerable. And
I'm not interested in that.
Okay,
I mean, not that I'm insensitive,
okay,
madam. It has
okay.
nothing to do with the ring.
But, okay, well, we started dating, and I told him I wasn't ready to get married. And he got pushy about the ring. And then he asked me to marry him in May, and I told him I wasn't ready. And then he said, keep it as a gift. And think about it.
All right, let's just say nothing. Say nothing. I don't believe that. Go to the next defense.
Okay, I put it into my jewelry box for safekeeping, and so then, like he said, I had the cleaners come. I had to go pick up my daughter from school. It should have only taken 15 to 20 minutes, and so I went to pick her up, came back, and there was some coins and a little bit of jewelry missing, and the ring. And he made me call the police, and we made a police report. It's right here. And it couldn't be an engagement ring because he dated other women. He verbally abused me. He verbally abused my daughter.
I'm not interested.
Okay. But it just was an engagement ring.
Sure, it was an engagement ring. It was an engagement ring because he bought not only the ring, he bought the wedding band.
I told him I wasn't ready to get married. He told me to keep it.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You owe him $975. Let me explain something to you. If you have a ring and if you break up with him and if you're not going to see him anymore, you give him back the ring. Case closed.
I tried to.
Case closed. In July, you don't hold on to it and put it in a box for safekeeping. That is, if in fact you put it in a box for safekeeping and you didn't go sell it someplace, which I think you probably did, or you still have it and maybe you're going to give it to your daughter or somebody else. In the meantime, if it doesn't work out, why should he feel as if you've taken advantage of him? Why?
It was the other way. He told me he needed money for tires. Constantly always after me for money, all the time. That's what this is all about. He just told me he's going to take me to court to get tires because he needs new tires and because he just bought another house.
Listen to me very carefully, madam.
He's taken advantage of me from the very beginning.
Then how old are you?
I'm 38, but I'm very well put together. At the time, I wasn't. I was distraught.
Listen to me. You don't look like the kind of person that anybody takes advantage of.
I just lost my husband, and my mom got diagnosed with cancer, and he knew this.
Listen to me. Listen to me. If you were grieving over your husband, you don't take a ring from somebody else.
I know that. I know that now.
But you did. But you did.
Made a
and
mistake.
by taking a ring from somebody, what you're really saying is, I'm interested. I'm interested. That's leading somebody on. That's cruel. That's unkind. And in my judgment, after listening to both of these stories and hearing your three defenses, A, I didn't say yes. B, if I said yes, he told me to keep it anyway, even if we broke up. And C, it got stolen. I don't believe you. After he came over and looked for the ring, you said, I'm sorry, my other stuff is here, but your ring is gone. He said, well, file a police report, which is what you did, correct? Anywhere in the police report did it say that there was evidence of a burglary?
Yes.
Well, show me. Show me where. No, read it where it says there was evidence of burglary.
Right here on the top, it says crime, burglary.
Show me where the police wrote down that there was evidence of a burglary, not what you claimed there was.
It doesn't say burglary,
Right.
but it says she opened the top drawer and discovered her ring missing.
Right, that's what you said. That's not what the...
That's what he said.
No,
he also did this police report with me.
Miss Reed, I mean, are you just thick? He comes over to get his ring. You go in with him to your drawer. You open the drawer with him. You say, oh, your ring must have been taken, along with some other coins that I might have there. That's too bad. Then you go and file a police report, because he says, according to you, that you should go and file a police report, which is what you did. That doesn't mean the police found any evidence of a burglary, because there was no burglary. You have insurance, by the way?
Whatever.
You have insurance on your other jewelry?
No, I don't.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of the ring, which was $969.75. Ms. Ream, I don't believe you. Goodbye.
You don't
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was always telling me to buy him things and stuff like that and saying, well, you got money, you got money.
I own 2 homes, and she told me to sell my homes and give her all my money.
He sues everybody. This is not his first time he sued somebody. He's sue happy.
She used to call me on the phone and threaten me and tell me if I go to court, I'll be sorry.
He's a liar, and he took advantage, and he knows it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Henderson. Step forward, please.
Maintenance man Joe Smith is suing his former live-in lover, paratransit driver Lisa Henderson, for the return of property. Lisa is countersuing for damages to her home and mental anguish.
According to your complaint, you folks lived together for about 4 years. And at some point, Mr. Smith, you were arrested on a domestic violence charge, either domestic violence or violating a protective order that Ms. Henderson had obtained. It is your claim that while you were incarcerated, she took your property and she won't give it back to you. You did get some of your property, but she still has a whole bunch of your stuff.
Correct.
That's what your lawsuit is about. Ms. Henderson says that you got everything that you're entitled to. What you didn't take yourself, an uncle of yours came and picked up. And she is counterclaiming for some damage that you did to her door when you were violating this protective order. So that's what we have. When were you arrested, Mr. Smith, for the first time on this charge of domestic violence?
That was like almost 4 years ago. I don't remember the exact date.
That's not the time that you took your property.
Yes, that's the previous time. It happened twice.
How many times have you been arrested altogether for domestic violence?
Once.
No, it had to be more than once. You said once 4 years ago, once more recently.
No,
So
this was for violating a restraining order for just going to the residence. There wasn't any violence involved.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was charged twice. One for holding me captive in my apartment
When was
I
that?
was 6 months pregnant in January of 2000. And he was convicted of that charge. We got back together.
A
and
testament to your good judgment.
Yeah. October 17th of last year, I had a restraining order issued to him 2 hours and 15 minutes later after he was served. He kicked in the front door.
Now, why was another protective order issued in October of 2002?
Because we were not getting along in the household. I asked Mr. Smith to leave my house. He was...
How long had he been living there?
For like 4 months. And we were not getting along.
So he's living there for 4 months. You weren't getting along. But no violence.
No. The police had to come out one incident in September where he threatened to put a hit out on me. Before that, he said he doesn't like my son and he never will. So I said, you need to get your belongings and get up out of my house. If you don't like my son, you don't care for me.
What happened in October?
I asked him to give him a certain amount of time to get his personal belongings and give him enough time to move out.
Did she do that?
No.
No,
Shh, just a second, don't interrupt. She didn't say to you, you have a week or 2 days or 48
she said,
hours?
get out right now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We split everything in the household.
So he paid his way. So he wasn't just coming to visit on weekends, right?
Right.
Well, that's not what you say in here.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joe Smith says ex-girlfriend Lisa Henderson won't return his property. Lisa says Joe threatened to put a hit out on her.
What did you do when she told you to get out?
I told her I couldn't because I had just paid my rent, PG&E and cable, and I have the receipts for that.
So you were paying the bills?
Yes.
Some of the bills at
Yes.
least there. So you said, I'm not leaving because I'm paid up through November 1st.
Actually, I told her I couldn't afford it because I just put my money into the household.
Okay.
But you told me you...
Shh, don't speak to him. Speak to me. So that was the conversation. He said, I'm not leaving right now. And what did you say to him?
I told him he needs to be out of my house within that Friday. He sits around bragging that he got so many women to take care of him. So I said, call one of them up, tell them to back their car up in here and get your things up out of my house.
And he said what?
He said, I'm not going nowhere. I'm a legal resident. I'm not going nowhere. You have to get me out legally.
Okay.
So the next day I went and filed for a restraining order.
Well, Miss Henderson, that's a violation of really what the restraining order is supposed to be about, madam. A restraining order is not something that you use instead of housing court. You had a discussion, you had an argument, you said get out and leave, and he said I'm not leaving. And you said no, you're going to leave, and he said get me out a legal way, and you said what's the best legal way for me to get out? I'll just go and tell somebody he threatened me. And you fill out a paper and you lie, because so far I haven't heard anything about a threat. And a judge looks at it and issues a restraining order. That's an abuse of what a restraining order is supposed to be. I'm here to tell you that. You can't use it in place of housing court that may take a little more time. So I'm sure you knew housing court would take a little more time, so you say the restraining order, that takes a flash, and he's out. So then he's annoyed because you get this restraining order and you lied to the judge when you got it.
No.
Yeah, sure you did. You had to have written something down that wasn't true.
When he threatened to put a hit out on me.
That was before.
I had the police come out for a report.
That was before. You were not annoyed about that. You were annoyed because he was bragging about other women and your son, and you wanted him out of the house. Come on, Miss Henderson. So you got the restraining order, and then what did you do?
I had Mr. Smith served.
And then what happened?
And 2 hours and 15 minutes later, he came to the house and kicked the door in and threw the restraining order back in the house.
You have a copy of the papers that you used to get the restraining order? Can I see the checks that you wrote for any of the bills in the apartment, Mr.
Yes,
Smith,
ma'am.
please? How much money did he give you towards rent every month?
$100, sometime $97.
Did you pay the cable bill?
Sometime
Well, he
I
paid in September, he paid in August, he paid in May.
We split everything in the household.
So he paid his way. So he wasn't just coming to visit on weekends, right?
Right.
Well, that's not what you say in here, in your statement to the police. Sometimes I will allow him to stay a weekend or a few days because we were getting along, but then he won't leave. Well, that's not true.
Right, Mr. Smith
That's
got
not
evicted and asked me to come help him when he got evicted out of his place in Cutting. Our agreement was he was supposed to stay so long to save up enough money so he can get his own place.
Well, that's not months and months where he's paying half the rent, paying half the bills, cutting everything in half. So he is a tenant there.
Right.
Okay. All right, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I want you to tell me, sir, what items do you claim that Miss Henderson has that belong to you?
Everything on my list that I have here.
Well, let me take a look at the list.
Okay. It's quite a bit. You might want to take a recess.
Show this to her, would you please, Bert?
No, I have my list, Your Honor. And this is the list that we had in November 22nd when he was incarcerated, and he gave it to me.
Who wrote that list?
He did.
Oh, then let me see that
and
list.
he got a different total from what he has on there.
Oh, fine. Then let me take a look. And the check, and what you've crossed out is...
The things that I gave to Larry in November.
So you still have the other things?
because those are the things that he gave to me by him bringing it into the household, which is a gift to me.
No, it's not a gift. None of these things are gifts. I want you to listen to me. None of these things are gifts. Everything on this list that he prepared, so I won't look at this list. This is the list he prepared. You make sure are boxed up because he's going to send somebody to get them. Do you understand?
Yes.
No fooling around. Listen to me. If you're frightened enough of somebody to seek the court's assistance in getting a restraining order against them, you want everything that you have that might cause them irritation out of the house. You didn't have these things before he moved back. Now you're going to give them back to him, and the only contact you're going to have with him is over visitation or contact with a child that you share in common. So stop acting stupid.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Now let's talk about him busting down your door. He knocked down the door, Miss Henderson. Was that after you had him served with the protective order in October?
Yes.
Then he, I don't think that was the right thing to do, to knock down the door. It also wasn't the right thing to do to file a false police report, which you did. So you do not get your door fixed as a lesson not to abuse the court system. That's it. Good. Goodbye.
Yeah, this is case number 460 on the calendar in the matter of Candia versus Castro. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Candia, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time, and you have a child together.
Yes.
You don't live together anymore, and according to your complaint, he owes you for bail money. He had been arrested on a domestic violence complaint. I assume you were the victim in that domestic violence complaint.
Yes.
And in addition to that, you want him to pay his portion of the remainder of the lease on the apartment that you live in, despite the fact that you put him out of the house. You say he's responsible for it, he's on the lease, he should pay. When was he arrested for domestic violence?
On November 16th.
What were the circumstances of his arrest?
We went to a wedding. It was Julio and my daughter and myself.
How old's your daughter?
She's a year and a half.
Okay.
And Julio was drinking quite a bit. I asked him to slow down, but he chose not to. He got pretty intoxicated. He got to the point where he wasn't really coordinated in his walk, so we left, and he started to get belligerent in the car.
So you were driving and he was in the passenger seat?
I have a van, so he was in the back with the baby in the car seat.
What was he doing in the back?
He was yelling a lot of names at me, getting really
nasty.
Yes. And I was concerned about my daughter. She was awake and she saw him acting this way. And I told him to stop. He wouldn't, so I told him to get out of the car. I pulled over, told him to get out. First he refused, and then he got out. And then I realized that we were on a busy street. It was in San Francisco. And knowing that he was not walking right, I didn't want him to get hit by a car, so I came out of the car and I asked him to be respectful to me, and I would, drive him home and stuff like that. And he kept arguing with me, and it turned violent at that point.
What do you mean it turned violent? What happened?
Well, he started to urinate on a tree. And
on a busy street in San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds charming.
And I guess he thought it was funny. He started to urinate on my shoe.
Well, he thought it was funny again. Yeah.
He started to urinate on my shoe, and I kind of pushed him away. But I guess he thought I was attacking him, and he just started basically hitting me.
And somebody called the police?
Those three ladies in a car were honking the horn at him to stop.
And they must have called the police?
Mm-hmm.
And they came and they arrested you. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Perfect. Exactly what should have happened, right?
Yes.
You don't think anything else should have happened, right?
No.
You were drunk. You were abusive. You were urinating in public. You were hitting her, pushing her. So you should have been arrested, right?
Yes, Your Honor, but may I?
Sure. I want to hear you.
We have a commitment. We make a commitment to each other. That,
no, you didn't. What kind of commitment do you have?
Well, if I drink, she driving, and she...
Oh, I thought you were talking about a marriage commitment,
No,
sir.
no.
Oh, no. You have a commitment that if you drink, she drives. And if she drinks, you drive.
I drive, right.
Good. So you have an arrangement, not a commitment.
Arrangement,
A commitment is something that two people usually have together when they start a family, when they make a baby. You know, they go to a minister, they go to a rabbi, they go to a priest, they go to a clerk, they get married. They, you know, you do. You know what I'm talking about.
So an arrangement.
You had an arrangement.
Right.
The arrangement was when you drink, she drives you home. So I'm listening. I'm waiting. Let me hear you.
We had similar circumstances when she drinks. She gets
I'm not
violent.
interested in similar circumstances.
Okay.
Did she ever urinate on your foot?
She did worse than that, Your Honor.
I don't want to know.
But I'm not
that.
here for that, right.
I want you to tell me what happened that day that in any way minimizes your fault, your culpability.
Well, I don't feel that I should pay all the money to her.
Very
we went
few
to a
people
wedding.
do.
She started hitting me, and she did this, pulled me out of the car. I wasn't doing anything back there.
I believe she pulled you out of the car. I believe she did. Listen, just because she's very soft-spoken, I don't necessarily buy into that. You understand that, don't you? Huh?
Yes.
I believe that you grabbed him, pulled him out of the car. And that's why he got out. And you have no right to open up your big, fresh mouth in front of a baby.
I wasn't doing that, Your Honor.
Well, why would you think, sir, that she would pull you out of the car?
She thought I was on the phone talking to my ex-girlfriend. That's what she pulled
In the
car
back
over.
of the car?
In the van, right.
Were you on the phone?
No. I don't even know my ex-girlfriend's phone number.
Was that true that he was on the phone?
Look at me. He was talking to his son on the phone.
You know anything about a phone call to his ex-girlfriend? Look at me. Right here.
I heard him mention her name, but I asked him.
You did. When did you hear him mention her name?
During the conversation with his son.
With his son?
Yeah.
Did that make you angry? Look.
That's what
Did that make you angry?
Yes, I questioned him about it.
Okay. Very good. You see what happens, how the worm turns? We get some information? Good. Now, you questioned him about it. We don't question about it. You got angry.
I did question him about it.
And what did he say to you when you questioned him about it?
Nothing. He really didn't have any answer for me. He just kind of looked cross-eyed to me.
Go ahead.
I'm not a violent person. I'm not somebody that's going to drink. I get happy, if anything. And I feel like she provoked me to do what I did. Whatever I did.
You can't provoke somebody.
Well, and I'm not saying that it was right.
Good. Why don't we just stop there? Nobody can provoke another human being into indulging themselves in violence. You can't do that. Because you're supposed to be able to control yourself. That's what makes us different from animals.
I wasn't screaming in front of my daughter or anything like that.
That's
After the phone call is when she started.
My mouth is moving. Mr. Castro, human beings control themselves. Animals can't control themselves. And if you drink to a point where you can't control yourself and you just act out the way you feel, you have to be responsible for that. So 3 ladies in a car were so concerned about what they saw that they called the police and you were arrested. And that was the bail. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why is he responsible for the bail?
I picked him up. I asked him when we were walking across the street to the bailiff's office. I told him how important I needed that money back.
And what did he say?
He told me he promised he would pay me back every single penny.
Is that right?
I don't remember saying that, Your Honor. I started paying her because it wasn't enough money for the bail, and she told me she needed some money, so I said, okay, I'll give you. So I gave her $500. And
afterwards, sir.
Afterwards.
Don't play with me. After she posted the bail, you started to pay her back.
Yes.
Not on your way over to get the bail, afterwards. And how much did you pay her back?
$500.
That's what she says. Now, how long were you in jail, sir?
16 hours, something like that.
Okay, so not long. So you got out on the 17th. When you got out, where did you go?
We went back to the house.
Is that right?
Yes.
When did you leave the house?
10 days later, because it was just
Tell me what
arguing
happened.
And fightings and
Tell me what happened 10 days later.
Well, from the time I got out of jail, maybe the following day, she just, and I understand, she felt like she didn't want me around, and we just kept arguing every day. You see, I had a 14-year-old, and it was arguing all day in front of the kids, calling each other names, and just, you know, so.
So you decided to leave?
I decided to leave. I thought it was the best thing for both of us.
Probably true.
For the kids.
Are you still living there?
Yes.
Good. Why do you think he should pay for the balance of the lease?
Because he chose to leave, and he's...
No. You didn't want him to stay. And it was dangerous for him to stay. You have a 14-year-old and an infant? Why should they be around constant bickering and quarreling?
True, Your Honor, but he signed a lease that, he should at least fulfill his lease.
Well, where'd you expect him to live? You
He
can't
lives
pay
with
rent at
his-
your house
He
and
lives with his
someplace
son.
else.
He doesn't pay anything at his son. I don't see why he cannot pay the remainder of the lease.
You should take him to court for child support. He should pay child support.
That's not true, Your Honor. I still pay my son for living there. I don't live there for free.
No. I'm not talking about where you're living now. You pay your son. I'm talking about child support for your baby, sir.
I'm taking care of my baby. You know?
You mean the baby lives with you?
No, I'm helping her with the baby.
What do you mean you're helping her? Tell me.
Giving her money.
How much? It's not an answer.
500.
500 a what?
A month.
When was the last time you gave her $500?
December. I paid the rent that month.
In
I paid
December?
half of the rent, yes.
How much
So,
was half of the rent?
$675.
Did he pay half of the December's rent?
Yes, he did.
Okay, what about January?
No.
Why not?
Because we were coming to court.
You have to support your child.
Yes, I do. I know.
She shouldn't have to take you to court to get you to do that. You should do that by yourself. But you have to do that regularly, every week or every 2 weeks or every month.
I never said that I wasn't going to pay child support or I wasn't going to help my daughter.
You have to do it.
I know. I never.
A month went by. So far, I didn't see any money. Where was the money for last month?
I haven't given it to her yet.
Why not?
Well, I was waiting for the court.
What do you mean you were waiting? Child has to eat, right?
Well, she eats all the time. I still go over there and.
Mr. Castro,
I still
Mr.
go
Castro,
to Safeway and
what
get
you're
her
supposed
food
to do
and-
is take care of your responsibilities. Do you understand?
I think I do take care
Well,
of it.
you didn't. A, you didn't take care of your bail. You paid $500 and the bail, according to the plaintiff, was $3,500, leaving a balance of $3,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Let me see the paperwork. So that's not taking care of your responsibility. It's your bail. You acted badly. You failed to control yourself. It's not her bail, it's yours. And you said you would pay her back. And you did give her $500, but then you stopped. I want to know why you stopped. And you have no answer for that? Is this the first time you were arrested for domestic violence, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
First time you were arrested?
No.
When was the last time you were arrested?
1991?
Were you ever incarcerated?
No.
What happened with this case?
He was dismissed. I was supposed to go to court the following Wednesday, and when I showed up for court, they said that the case was dismissed.
Okay. $3,000 he owes you. I don't think he's responsible for the rest of the rent. I think, however, he is responsible for child support. You live there with your 2 children. You have 2 children?
Yes.
Do you get child support for your 14-year-old son?
No.
Why not?
His father's deceased.
So does he get Social Security?
No. He's been deceased since I was 7 months pregnant, so I was very young. I did not do anything about it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
She gave up her business to come and volunteer with yours for nothing? She had her own business. You mean to tell me she gave it up? She wasn't in love with you.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rita Candia says, during a night out, ex-boyfriend Julio Castro became drunk and belligerent.
You have to start to pay some child support, Mr. Castro.
I don't have a problem with that, Your Honor.
Very good. How much are you going to pay her?
We talked about between $500 and $600.
When was the last time you talked about it?
Maybe about a month ago, 3 weeks ago.
How much money did he give you last month?
Nothing.
Is that right, Mr.
He just
Castro?
gave me maybe diapers.
Right.
Mr. Castro, the first thing I want you to do when you get home is write her out a check. Write her out a check for $500. Because along with certain pleasures that you get from children, you also have responsibilities. So you
I don't have a problem with that.
Then start paying. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't feel like it was all my fault.
I didn't pour alcohol down his throat.
We were both drinking.
When the red flags show, listen to it or walk away from it.
हेलो गाइस, ये कीड़ा इसमें हम कलर करेंगे, तो देखिएगा हम कलर कैसे करते हैं। वीडियो पसंद आए लाइक करें, शेयर करें, कमेंट करें। सबसे पहले हम करते हैं ऑरेंज कलर। करेंगे येलो कलर. गाइस हमारा कलर कंप्लीट हो गया है। आपको कैसा लग रहा है हमें कमेंट करके ज़रूर बताएं।